I agree with mass remigration, but for DACA kids, aren't they more American than where they're from? Some don't even speak their home language.
Okay, so what?
Fuck those kids. Probably literally, according to Fuentes, who downplays Jeffrey Epstein.
Do you think people want to replace her with Epstein? Most people can't live without some ultimate evil to put all their problems on.
Oh my gosh.
You think there's like a horny thing going on there? Audience pays him to berate them, like a little fucking gay Hispanic.
I just found Nick grating and annoying.
Women suck. I'm not living around sorry.
Minorities are bad. Always. That's it. That's his whole thing.
What is Nick doing so right?
Nobody really likes Nick Fuentes for who he is as a person. They like him for what he says. What is going on in the world? Why is everything worse than it's ever been? What do we do about it? Fuentes is to some degree part of that.
The liberals are right about many things.
And how does Nick Fuentes react to all this?
I totally agree with you. I live in a diverse city, and I prefer it.
Wow. I mean, think about it. What does Nick Fuentes do? He riles up a bunch of dumb racists who self-report, and then he takes their money from them by selling them this white victim complex, and then they're unable to really do anything about anything. I mean, that sounds kind of like a win. I wonder if Nick Fuentes is actually like super important. Anyway, what's going on, guys? This video looks interesting. Nick Fuentes destroyed my life from Big Joel. I'm just curious, man. Looks interesting. I wonder if it's just going to be like, I fell down the all-right pipeline for a while, you know? So let's give it a watch.
So Nick Fuentes is a famous racist and white nationalist.
All right, we're famous.
And I went on Rumble, the streaming platform he works on, to like watch his videos and
That's beautiful.
hear him out, I guess.
Hate Six Flags.
That's why.
Always hated Six Flags. Six Flags was very traumatizing.
This guy sounds like a doofus.
First video I saw
Like a huge doofus.
from him was called It's Time for Me to Ascend, and it made for an odd introduction to the guy. In the first 2 minutes, Nick whines about being chubby and small and wanting an awesome body.
I'm gonna get huge arms. I'm gonna get a huge chest. Told myself I'm getting fat. I need to ascend.
And I saw that and thought, wow, he's just like me for real. Wow, I'm a weak and soft man and want to ascend just like Nick Fuentes.
Wow. It's kind of a crazy world when the fat guy on the internet is like more muscular, you know, than the white supremacist dude. What the fuck, dude? What the hell? I'm not getting up and showing my legs. I can't do it. I'm too fucked. My legs are fucking burnt out.
Oh, you're getting fat again.
Maybe that's the time to show you guys my fucking quads, but I am fat.
And oh, the goy slop. You eat like shit. You are shit.
True.
And you should die. So
All right, that's crazy.
then I go on a diet, and now I want to die.
I was about to close the tab.
Why would you go on a diet when you look like Nick Fuentes? Why wouldn't you just try to bulk up? You just need to put more muscles there. All right, I'll show you my quads. I did squat today. I squatted. Let's put a pause. I'm fucking busted up, dude. I'm overtrained. We're overtrained, dude. We're overtrained, but it's okay. How do we feel about these today? I'll tell you right now, I'm feeling kind of good about them, actually. They look pretty decent. See how they are from the back. I mean, I didn't really do any hamstring work today. I usually separate that. A little chunky. But we're kind of doing decent. It's not too bad. Tell you one thing, I've been less overtrained at the gym ever since I stopped doing I stopped doing a lot of post exhaustive work, right? So now what I do is I used to go to the gym and I'd squat, you know, I'd work up for like 5 sets of 5, starting at like half the weight, and then, you know, and then doing like hack squats, and it would burn through me. So I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to squat when I squat. And then like if I want to do more, I could have a day where I do something else. So I have a front squat and back squat day. And so today I went in and I back squatted. I think it was, I did the bar for like 5 reps just to warm up. Then I did 115 for 12, 145 for 10, 175 for 8, 205 for 6, and then 235 for 4. And like I do deep hamstring, my hamstrings and my calves touch, deep squats. And I pause. I do 1, 2, go. Like that's what I do. So I get in the hole and I go 1, 2, boom. So it's probably like a second maybe. And that's just how I work out now. I stop the belt, and that's pretty much it. And I've been kind of making some gains. It's tough, man. When you get old, it's tough. To make it as much progress sometimes because you're just fucking old, man. Recovery's not there. I can't lift like I used to. So, you know, building it back up. Happy about the squats. happy about the pre-exhaustive volume. And then after I fucking finished my 5, working sets of squats, I just went and I just did some rows, seated rows, and I walked for a half hour. I'm trying to walk more. I feel like I'm just better for my recovery and my health. I get a lot of burps out when I walk. You think that's weird, but like it's great for heartburn. Walking is really good for heartburn. So that's why I do that. Show my squats. Maybe I'll do that. Let's see. I'm doing light stiff leggeds on Friday. Next week I'm going to do heavy front squat. Heavy. I'm going to work up to like 195 on the front squat. It's not going to be heavy, but I could probably record that and show you how deep I go. It's not as impressive because it is a front squat, but I could do that for you guys if you want, if you're interested.
Out of shame, but then something interesting happened. Someone named Big Guy 2254 super chatted Nick with a $25 donation and asked,
"Hey Nick, I agree with mass remigration, but for DACA kids, aren't they more American than where they're from? Some don't even speak their home language. Should they be able to stay?"
Fuck you. They gotta go.
Certified skips.
And this simple moment short-circuited my mind and ruined me for 3 months.
What?
I want you to imagine something. You're a big fan of Nick Fuentes, somebody who wants to see him have
I like that, Nick Fuente.
25 American dollars because you like him so much. And your question for Nick is, should some undocumented immigrants be allowed to stay in America? Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, specifically the ones that came here as kids and really had no control over it and are now basically Americans.
If the immigrants just hung around? Nick's response to this question is entirely predictable. Indeed, I would respectfully ask that Big Guy 2254 send me any future $25 donations.
Me too. Don't do that, actually.
Because I'm more than capable of answering on Nick's behalf. No.
That's actually funny. I understand what he's saying. Like you're putting a coin in a slot and you're going to get like fucking idiot slop. You're not going to get something particularly intelligent. So why the fuck bother asking him that question? Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't want the DACA kids.
Well, but what about them? What about us, bro? Too bad. So sad. The world is a tough place.
Tough spit, idiot. You know what I'm saying? Fuck those kids. Okay, probably literally, according to Fuentes, who downplays Jeffrey Epstein's horrible action against children. So,
but they were here as kids. Okay, so what?
Nick Fuentes hates
I don't know, man. That's crazy. Okay, whatever. He doesn't care.
Non-white immigrants. He complains about Donald Trump because he doesn't deport enough, non-white immigrants. That's like his whole thing.
Trump is constantly signaling to his predominantly white base with a implicitly white cultural politics and is always stabbing the white people in the back.
Crazy, dude. With like his penis?
It's no different than when at the convention last year they held up signs saying mass deportations. You see any mass deportations? They're not happening.
And yet, the question is...
So sad, dude. So sad.
...is asked. The money changes hands. There was a moment when Big Guy 2254 thought to himself, maybe my favorite race streamer might make a reasonable exception to his racism policy. What's my point? Why do I care about this? Am I about to tell you that actually Nick Fuentes' audience, the so-called groypers, are more complicated and even-handed than you might expect? No, not at all. In fact, as we'll see, they're usually total freaks, oftentimes more freakish than Nick is himself.
First time super dating.
Well, doesn't sometimes Nick have to be like, no, you can't do that because of this. We gotta, we can't hate Jewish people or something. You know what I mean? Even though his whole audience hates Jewish people.
Do you think people want to replace Hitler with Epstein? Most people can't live without some ultimate evil to put all their problems on.
Oh my gosh.
No, my point is simply that things get weirder the more closely you look at them.
You think there's like a horny thing going on there? Like his audience asks him some dumbass question and he's like, all right, you guys are fucking dumb, dude. You know what I mean? But like the audience pays him to berate them. Like a little fucking gay Hispanic twink.
The last year, many high-profile publications have written about Nick Fuentes, and for the most part, they talk about big ideas. What does Nick Fuentes say about the future of the Republican Party, about the future of young American men? Most of these articles contain a general list of Nick's most audacious beliefs, his anti-Semitism and racism, and most of them express a profound concern at his popularity. As J. Caspian King writes, we should be more worried about Nick than we already are. None of these articles are bad. I'm not trying to start beef here. I know the New Yorker watches my videos and...
Whoa! Why do you think that? I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. You know, Big Joel's pretty cool, but why?
that they must be molding right now. But nevertheless, I do want more. We're told this guy, Nick Fuentes, is so important and
Do I miss my large donor? Have I ever had a large donor? I mean, sometimes people pop in and give me a lot of money every so often. But I think those are like huge Ethan Klein fans, and like they're like, oh, thank you for defending my guy, you know, or something. I don't know. We haven't really talked about Ethan too much lately. It's same old stuff, you know. It's like, okay,
influential, but what is he actually like? How does he express his beliefs? Why is he so popular? What is this world he's built for himself?
I think he's just like a non-threatening guy that's, you know, he looks like somebody that would rub his hands together and ask for money, you know. He's just like a non-threatening looking dude who says crazy shit, and people like that from him because he doesn't make you feel intimidated. That's what I'm assuming. You know, he says base stuff, but he's like kind of non-threatening. He's like a little toad, and he kind of, you know, slowly invades your space. It's like those fucking it's like he's like a male feminist energy. He's like a male feminist. Does that make sense? Like, oh yeah, your boyfriend was an asshole. Yeah, he should have eaten you out when you fucking pissed all over yourself. That actually might be good advice, but that's not the point that I'm making. I think you understand the point that I'm making, is that like Nick Fuentes has male feminist energy. He's like a little baby guy, you know?
Over on rumble.com.
So today I started the diet, and it's all protein, no carbs.
Incredibly stupid diet.
I want to kill myself.
Why would you do that? It's like an idiot's diet, especially if you're going to work out in tandem. Like it's like, oh, I have protein to build my muscles. Okay, so what energy? What is the energy going to be? You know what I mean? It's like making Legos without using cum to stick it together. You know what I mean? You need cum in your Legos. You need to cum on your Legos, or else they won't work. No, but seriously, you need to have more than just like a bunch of protein. You need to have energy to like break down the protein and like convert it into muscles.
In the last few months, I've watched a lot of Nick Fuentes, maybe around 50 hours, though I haven't counted. And today, I want to talk about it. I just hope to tell you about Nick Fuentes as I've come to see him, as the sometimes unique and sometimes quite boring person that he is. And maybe, by the end, we can start to understand why Big Guy 2254 booted up his favorite streamer, Nick Fuentes, and gave him money.
I love how like we just like got this fucking big guy. You know, this big guy is just he's just like a big part of this video for some reason. I love it.
And thought maybe this guy is interested in my nuanced immigration hot take.
Hot take: we shouldn't oppress people. Ew!
On December 8th, 2025, Piers Morgan had a lengthy interview with Nick Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes, welcome to...
Is Big Joel also Hispanic, or is he doing what my mom does and like pronounces Hispanic names in a silly accent because he thinks it's right? Like my mom, when she worked at White Castle, a lot of Hispanic people you'd never think. And she would be like, oh, hello, Maria. You know, she would do that. And she also says broccoli with an accent. It's just fucking crazy. Every time. Regardless of whether there's an Asian person. I don't think it's like a racist thing. I think it's that she's autistic and has like a... No, she's not autistic, but she has like a weird like vocal stim where she just thinks it's an enjoyable thing to say. It makes like her lips feel nice. You know? You understand what I'm saying? I think you guys get what I mean. It's just like she just perseverates on the thought. It's like a meme of her generation. You know?
To Uncensored.
Hi, great to be with you.
I don't know you.
The interview is basically about going over Nick's record. Fuentes has, of course, said many tendentious and bigoted things over the
Dude, please use small words.
course of his career, and Morgan plays clips of these moments and is like, you said a crazy thing about women.
Women suck. Like, they're talking too much. They're not
Women do be talking a lot. Uh-oh. Pescattios.
hot anymore.
So what's up with that? Are you a misogynist?
So basically,
I think you need a license to do that, right? To massage people?
you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you?
Old dinosaur. Okay.
For a young guy.
Yeah.
You said a crazy thing about black people.
I'm not living around blacks. Sorry.
Whoa!
Call me racist. Oh,
Sorry, can't get that horny. I can't be horny all the time. You guys got to give me a break.
very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
Do you really stand by that? Are you really... Are you actually a racist right now?
You're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
can't believe he would say that. What do I do?
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine with that.
To tell you the truth, watching this
He's
conversation is like pulling teeth. Nick Fuentes is
That's the goal. It's all. He's just fucking trolling. He trolls. He's serious. He does not like. He does like hate black people and all that, but he trolls, and so it comes off as like, oh, maybe he doesn't. It's just like childish, you know.
an out-and-out racist and Jew hater and
Whoa.
misogynist, and watching Piers Morgan act baffled and indignant about this fact for 2 hours straight, you know, it's just not appealing television.
But are you
Yeah, I mean, it can kind of just come off as some kind of a almost virtue signal. I mean, I don't think that anything that Pierce does is particularly interesting or intelligent. It's mostly just performative debate. They never really get anywhere, you know, which is, there's a lot of that. There's really no constructive conversation. There's just like a lot of performative debate. I don't think people have curious minds anymore. I don't know. I think maybe it's because they're just stupid, or maybe they're they don't have enough, they need to drink more raw milk diet, according to RFK, and they'll really expand themselves intellectually. I have no fucking idea. But people like want to be upset and outraged instead of just chill and calm and listening to other people talk. You know, like, it's even with a super big racist, like, imagine a regular conversation with the guy. Yeah, why don't you like black people? I don't know, man. I see a lot of stuff on TV. You know, like, that would be the honest answer. It's like, oh, okay, shit. I think that's like a media thing. You think they're trying to make you feel outraged? Yeah, probably. All right, conversation over. We did it. We had a really good time here too. We don't get that, you know.
actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not
Ooh,
gay.
Fuck, asshole.
No.
Still, I watched the whole thing, and to be honest with you, I was not impressed. I guess that's not so surprising. You probably wouldn't expect me to like Nick Fuentes very much, but even beyond my disagreements with his politics, I just found Nick grating and annoying and kind of dim.
And gay. Let's be real, yeah.
There are all these embarrassing.
Well, yeah. I mean, what intelligence do you expect from these people? Their brains are idiot programmed. Fuck, moron fucks. You know, like, there's nothing intellectual there. Minorities are bad. Always. That's it. That's his whole take. You can eat Play-Doh and have a more intelligent take. There's nothing there. Like, there's nothing to write home about. There's nothing interesting there. Like, there's nothing there's no mental exploration. Even if you think he's right, he's not. But, like, there's never a nuanced take. It's just, that's it. His most nuanced take is it really that bad to molest and rape 15-year-old girls on Epstein's Island? That's his most nuanced take. Is technically it's not pedophilia, and they're technically illegal, but should they be? The Bible says as long as she looks hot, she could have this cock. You know, that's his take. That's his fucking most nuanced take, is a justifier for child molestation. Sorry, teenager, minor molestation. I say it's a major problem. But so yeah, man, like, what do you expect from Nicholas Fuentes? He's a fucking moron that got popular saying moron shit. And it's easy to stay, like, keep your audience captured when you're not willing to say anything particularly intelligent. You don't want to offend them by saying something that they'd be upset with. Obviously, his audience isn't upset with pedophilia, or I guess hebephilia, because they're a bunch of fucking freaks that are virgins and don't value women as people. So,
embarrassing moments that pepper the interview. Like,
Pepper
at
Pig.
one point, Nick is explaining why he advises his audience to avoid black people and says,
White people should go out of their way to avoid black people when they see them.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
Why?
Why?
Because it's a lose-lose proposition. If you're Irina Zarutska and you don't walk the other way, you get stabbed to death and you die. If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway.
What if I like juicy black pussy? What am I supposed to do? Guys, don't tell my wife I said that. I've convinced her that I'm incredibly racist, so she doesn't think that I found black women attractive. So do me a favor and just say that if she asks what we talked about today, just say I said a lot of the N word like 70 times. She'll still be really upset, but at least she does. At least she won't feel insecure. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, guys?
Way, and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine. It's a lose-lose proposition.
What? You know, I have a lot of empathy for starting sentences and then realizing you don't know how to finish them. But in this case, his failure really undermines the thrust and severity of his argument, right? Being near black people is a lose-lose situation
Guys, don't clip that, please.
because the first lose is that what if they stab you, and the other lose is that it's fine. So that's kind of two loses, right? There's the lose of dying, and then there's the lose of just sort of getting where you want to go. Or on the race issue, he and Piers have this whole conversation about the black male murder rate, and Nick says that 5% of black men will commit murder in their lifetimes.
Whoa, that's not true.
Remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
I'll put a full explanation.
That's just not true. We talked about it when I reacted to this, so.
For this on my side channel, but suffice it to say, that's an absurd statistic. But then when Piers confronts Nick on his stat, Nick says 1%, 5%, whatever.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No.
But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
Sure,
this is
a lot of white
problem.
people commit murder too.
And come on, man. 1 in
Whoa, a lot of whites.
20, 1 in 1.
White people do be committing murder. Well, you have to understand that this is the problem, is that black people are more violent. If you if you look at it from the case of a white society, and I hate to be the first one to be super white and woke unless I'm in a room full of beautiful black women, of course, but I gotta stop. I'm gonna get in so much trouble for my wife. But it's not murder if you imperialize a country. That's not murder. Who's the best imperializers ever? It do be white people. We do be pretty good at it, okay? We've done a lot of fucked up shit. So, I mean, it's just something to think about, you know, that we, according to us, like, oh, black people are more violent because, you know, we don't like to acknowledge the systemic aspects of it. But when you really put it together properly, like, holy fuck, we violented the whole world for all their resources. That's pretty fucked. That's pretty fucking crazy, don't you think?
100, you're getting bogged down in the details, Piers. Who cares? People are dying, Piers. People are dying in the subway. And this is probably the most...
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest. Some of these subway workers do fucking deserve to die. I'm just kidding. They don't. But I mean, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Nowadays, nowadays when you go to Subway, these dudes have like the fucking the sandwich meat and everything hidden behind a fucking glass, so you can't even see if you're getting a good deal. It's kind of fucked up, you know?
Most horrible moments of the conversation. At one point, Piers talks about a story Nick Fuentes shared about his father saying something racist.
Well, you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and
Don't talk about my daddy, please.
how he wouldn't take
Dude, Subway does fucking suck.
the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. Before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say.
Now, I don't
Whoa.
really like this approach from Piers. I find it annoying to talk about bigotry in this sort of mind of a murderer way. But even so,
I think it was a fair question to ask.
Nick's response is just so ridiculous.
Dude, I meant the glass was blocked, okay? Shut up. You know what I mean. They block it off so you can't see how much they're putting on your fucking food. It's ridiculous.
He starts by talking about how it's a new low.
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's
It's your anecdote, bud.
Oh,
sort of a new low, but-
hang on, it's your anecdote.
And then later on, he says multiple times that Piers is putting his dad's job in jeopardy.
The difference is you're attacking my father. You know, he
I'm not
could get
attacking
fired
your
from his
father.
job. And there's a political culture in
What? That's not even, there's no fucking way. If they would already know about it, you being his son, so.
America where if you have the wrong views, you get fired from your job. And my father has a job.
How dare you
Probably better than what it used to be, whereas if you had the wrong skin color, you got fired from a job, so, okay.
talk about my father saying
Hey, guys, if you use the N-word, you don't have your job. Oh, man, can we go back to the time where, like, you could just tell black people that they shouldn't be allowed to work just because you're racist? Like, what a great time, right now?
that he doesn't want to go to a restaurant because he associates it with black people? Why are you doing this, Piers? Don't you see that you could cost my father his job? Don't you care about my dad's fucking job, Piers? They go on and on like this. I swear to God, at least 4 minutes are spent on daddy's job because Piers Morgan brings up a story that Nick talked about publicly on the internet As a political pundit.
Let's just not talk about my father because my father isn't here. I'm here.
Okay, well,
I'll
then do you
defend
accept
my
that you
views
shouldn't
and I'll
talk?
defend
Okay,
the
listen,
anecdote.
Yeah, my father's not here either, dude. It's so sad.
That's fine.
But beyond these sorts of
That sucks.
embarrassing moments, I also just find Nick evasive and disingenuous.
That do be the whole strategy.
Like at one point, the boys are talking about Holocaust denial. Piers asks Nick how many people he thinks died in the Holocaust, and Nick makes a joke.
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust? How many Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the
He does what? Is he the 6 or 7 million?
number? 6 million, something like that.
Okay, he's so stupid.
So you
8 million?
And he makes the same one later on.
Oh, it's at least 6 million, but it
Okay.
could be 100
well,
times
people
more
are going
than
to be
that. And
okay.
Shamefully, Piers Morgan has no idea that Nick is joking, and he
Yeah, he didn't. He did not know at all.
responds with shock and awe that this man he thought was a Holocaust denier was in truth a sweet Holocaust believer.
It's at least 6 million. What's interesting to me is that you appear to now concede that.
Oh, it hurts.
Yep, it does hurt. You don't. There's no. He doesn't have anybody under the age of fucking 40 to give him. He doesn't like. I think at this point, Piers needs like someone in there in the back room that's just like understands memes. Like our fucking resident memer. We have our resident memer. They know the memes. They're ready for it. You know.
It's to watch. The thing is, though, it's convenient that Nick makes this joke because it allows him to, not answer the question. Nick Fuentes paints himself in this interview as an iconoclast. He actually says that. He says the words, "I'm an iconoclast."
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion.
And he's an iconoclast because
What the fuck is an iconoclast? I've never heard that word before.
he doesn't care about the Holocaust. This bit of propaganda that, like slavery, convinced white people to doubt themselves and that is leading
A person who attacks cherished beliefs or institutions. Oh, okay. So he doesn't want to attack that cherished belief that a bunch of Jewish people were nay-nayed. Terrible stuff.
to white genocide.
We're tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow. We're done hearing about that. You guys
I'm not
overplayed your
done
hand.
hearing about that.
Our people are being genocided in our country.
Gulp?
50% of the
What?
live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are
Wow.
non-white.
As he says, the only
Gulp? What
thing important about the
the fuck is this guy talking about?
Holocaust is the way it's used politically and the fact that we're not even allowed to debate it.
In many countries, it's not even legal to talk about
Are you
it.
serious?
And that's really where my interest in the
Oh my god, I didn't even know this.
Holocaust begins and sort of ends, to tell you the
my
truth.
God.
But of course,
Oh shit, we can't even talk about it.
this isn't the whole story. Nick is a Holocaust revisionist. He said on multiple occasions that he doesn't believe that Nazis used gas chambers.
Damn, what the hell? What do you think, they just farted?
People talk about, well, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places.
Whoa, and yet you don't seem interested in talking about them. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. The only time that Mr. Fuentes wants to talk about genocide, other genocides, I guess you'd say non-white genocides, is when he wants to criticize Jewish genocide, which, funny enough, he doesn't think is white. So yeah, because he doesn't think Jewish people are white because he's a freak. So just very interesting stuff. It's very interesting stuff, man. That was interesting too.
If people wanted to tell me 6 million died in the Holocaust, I'd say, okay, fine. If people want to say there were gas chambers, I'd say, yeah, I don't know if I buy that. Fine.
He went on the Fresh and Fit podcast in 2023 and glazed David Irving, a notorious Holocaust revisionist, for like 5 minutes straight.
As I start to dig into it, and you find that one of the preeminent World War II historians in the history of the world, his name's David Irving, he goes in and says, well, there were attributes about the Holocaust which may not be true. Like, for example, a lot of the Jews that died in these camps, they weren't death camps. He says the people that died there, they died because there was disease spreading in the camps, but maybe these technological horrors are exaggerated. Maybe the numbers
Well, that's what they do. They put them into camps. They're called death camps because they make them work to death, and they don't care about their conditions because they see them as disposable units that they could just continuously allow to die so they keep the conditions poor. But okay, yeah, sure.
Are exaggerated.
So clearly he does have some thoughts on this issue. He's not a true Holocaust agnostic. But see, that doesn't fit into our narrative today. Getting into all that would kind of undermine his point that the Holocaust doesn't matter to him, and in any case, I don't think Nick would be very good at defending his position here. And so he makes a joke.
Well, yeah, obviously the Holocaust is very important to him. Like, he wants to dismiss that it exists in general.
And looks at the camera like he's Jim from The Office.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 7 million. What's the number?
6 or 7.
6 million.
6 million. What?
Something like that.
6 million people died. Jim doesn't make that face on The Office. Or like, okay, Piers plays a clip of Fuentes saying that most black people should be in jail, and Piers and Nick have this interaction.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever.
When is it racist to say blacks? When am I allowed to say it? It kind of rolls off the tongue. I'm just kidding. What the fuck?
For the percentages of the murderers.
Say black Americans.
I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetimes.
Me when I think. That's me when I think. I think what I think. Just help me out here. I'm thinking that's the statistic. It's so interesting. They can't even like fake their language. You know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's saying is untrue when he says, I think it's like, because he does this a lot because he's a coward. So he's like, I think maybe, I don't know. He doesn't really know, but he says it with the confidence that he knows, with the tone of voice that, like, yeah, but then the words he uses, like, I think. You know, but he's very confident about the number. This way he has plausible deniability. For who? What, are you going to get sued because you don't say you think? Wait, what is happening here?
So maybe let's say that 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that.
That's
You
the
just
crime
said
problem.
blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that.
Okay, he's a fucking idiot trolling.
Nick gives this shit-eating grin, you know, like Jim from The Office, as though Piers is...
It's very interesting. It's interesting, the tactic, like the direction that Big Joel's going into. Because the direction is like, is just to call him Jim from The Office. It's like, I think it's funny.
Point is just...
Like, that's the way he wants to kind of dehumanize him. But Jim's he's kind of an alpha. But I guess the idea is to say that it's like a big performative thing.
It's that ridiculous. But to me, it feels like a cope.
Or maybe he just really thinks he's like Jim from The Office.
Nick said that most black people should
Except for gay, I guess.
be in jail, which is psychotic.
Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
He didn't want to back down from this point and look weak in front of Piers Morgan. And so he says, yeah, I mean the black people who murder people, and then laughs about it and acts all condescending as if to imply that this distinction couldn't matter less. But here's the thing. It works. All of it works. I'm literally just watching the video wrong. As of right now, this conversation...
Yeah, pretty much. You're supposed to watch the video like you're a fucking idiot sponge. And then you get sucked into Nick Fuentes.
...has around 6 million views. Or...
Maybe 7 million.
Or, you know... maybe 10 times that.
Okay. He was so unconfident about that joke, but that was silly.
That's what I have in the script. And the comments are universally on Nick's side. I literally cannot find one that isn't some groiper delighted by how Fuentes performed.
Yeah, well, they show up for their daddy. You know what I mean? Their daddy didn't show up for them, so they show up for their daddy.
I guess this is for a few reasons. For one thing, Piers Morgan is undeniably annoying, and he has been for his whole life.
It's true.
At one point, they talk about misogyny, and Piers starts dunking on Nick for being a virgin, and it really cringes me out.
Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow, says the guy who's never got laid.
You don't...
Damn. I think that it's, you can bring it up. It makes sense, because he's trying to give relationship advice when he's a virgin, which I think is pretty stupid and pathetic. But you probably shouldn't go too hard on bullying him, you know, dude. These are the incel men. This is the incel male king. You know what I mean? Optically, it just looks like a little weird, I guess. But whatever, just bully him for being gay. Fuck it.
Don't like women? Well, you haven't even gotten laid. Try getting some pussy next time, Nick Fuentes.
I think that if Piers was funnier, that could be funny. Like, if it would be a good point. Like, what are you, fucking gay? Why do you think about dudes all the time? What the hell?
Unless, of course, you're a homosexual.
Beast!
You're not gay.
No.
And Piers Morgan is just kind of like that. He can just be a bit hard to watch. But the more obvious
Yeah, of course.
Obvious reason Nick won, particularly from the perspective of his audience, is the very reason I found him so annoying. He acts like a disingenuous weirdo. Sure, I think it's embarrassing for Nick to talk about how all black people should be in jail and then say, well, I mean the murderer should. But what his audience sees there is someone who doesn't back down, who refuses to acknowledge his own argument
just like Nick A30, dude.
Beneath his feet. Most black people should be in jail, and he'll affirm that point even if he can't actually do the work of affirming it. Yes, I think it's dumb for Fuentes to avoid the question of his Holocaust revision, but that gesture gives him everything he wants. He confuses the
Yep, pretty much. All of his audience like gets a particular signal, and the people who could pick up on his sarcasm go, oh, look, he's just being funny. Maybe he's not that bad, and Piers doesn't get it. He's so stupid.
Boomer Piers Morgan, he avoids making an argument he's almost certainly not prepared to defend, and he signals to his audience his belief that 6 million Jews didn't die in the Holocaust, or that it doesn't matter if they did or didn't.
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion.
The only person who might have some conflicting feelings about this interview is Nick Fuentes himself. In the days after his conversation with Piers, Nick streamed about the experience, and it was kind of a weird stream. Don't get me wrong, the
Damn, you got fucking Big Joel hate watching you. That's crazy.
energy in that room was excited, almost rapturous. Fans super chatted Nick just to gas him up on how well he did.
Damn, uh-oh, better be careful. Don't want to get gassed up.
Nick described the event in these momentous sounding terms. He laid the hammer down. He destroyed Piers Morgan.
Oh
I thought the
no.
Piers interview was more consequential than even the Tucker interview. You made the message clear and did not back down. Your
Never back down, never what? Never give up.
best interview yet.
That was like the end game. Me and Tucker was like Infinity War, and that was like Endgame.
Damn.
That was like Mortal Kombat, finish him.
But at the same time, Nick whines a fair amount, and whines in this very odd way. Like around 20 minutes into the hour and 40-minute video, Nick talks about the moment where Morgan believed him when he said his joke opinion about the Holocaust. And he complains about how Piers reacted to that information.
Did he want him to be like, oh, you're being cheeky?
So I said in response, I said, well, I think it's at least 6 million. It might be 10. He thought I was serious. And, you know, a good faith person would say, really? I'm surprised. I thought you said this. Did your position change? Why? No, but he didn't say that. He said, oh, well, your followers would like to hear. Turned it into like a, now I'm going to humiliate you. Now I'm going to make you look weak.
So Nick's accusation that Piers wasn't acting in good faith in this moment doesn't make sense to me.
It's funny because Nick wasn't really acting in good faith. But to him, he'll pass it off as a joke.
Of course Morgan would be skeptical of Nick saying a normal thing about the Holocaust. He said abnormal things about the Holocaust many times. And it's a good, normal question. If you believe that the consensus narrative around the Holocaust is correct, what do you think of your audience who might disagree with you? It's called a follow-up question, Nick.
What the fuck does that mean? I've never heard that before.
It's not inherently bad faith just because you feel judged by it. Later on, Nick describes other, better
Hey guys, you know what they say? It's a hate crime because I hated it, you know?
conversations he's had.
You know, people like Piers Morgan, they've created such a toxic environment. And maybe that's a
Piers Morgan's created a toxic environment. I mean, yeah, I guess I agree, but like, you are a toxic environment. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
boomer thing. Maybe that's a legacy media thing. You know, I feel like the younger generation, because it's all independent media, it's younger guys that are more curious.
Yeah, because those aren't toxic at all.
A guy like Bradley Martin is just curious. A guy
Like Bradley Martin. Bradley Martin's a fucking freak. Get the fuck out of here.
like Jack Neal, these are
I know who the fuck that is.
just two young
Maybe that's just like a guy like Jack Me Off. Was that who he said?
guys.
And again, the victim complex is just striking. Those people he had interviews with, Bradley Martin, Jack Neal, they were just conversations. Their purpose was simply to hear Nick out, have some friendly, sometimes
Well, you hate all Jewish people? Let me just hear you out for like a second. What?
very friendly banter with him.
You can't be bought and you can't be blackmailed in the same way that
Nick definitely wants to be blackmailed hard in the fucking ass with the fucking BBC. What are you talking about, dude?
maybe someone like Trump could be, which is a reason that I think your message is considered so dangerous, is because they know they can't really get to you.
So dangerous. I'm so scared.
That's fine, I guess. It's even fine.
I guess the message is dangerous because there's about antisocial young men, white men especially, that are feeling disenfranchised and they're blaming everybody else. I guess that's what everybody kind of does at this point. Which, I mean, well, they're blaming the races of people instead of focusing on like the billionaire class. But I guess everybody does that, right? So that's kind of the ultimate cuck situation.
To prefer those sorts of interactions, but Piers Morgan was doing something different. He actually went through Nick's record, asked him specific questions about things he said. Even if you find him annoying, Piers was doing journalism, actual confrontational journalism.
I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, true. Well, that's the problem, is that like even the mainstream media is like so shitty, but it's still held to a higher standard than, you know, whatever the fuck Nick Shirley's doing, you know?
Here, that's posed as everything wrong with the legacy media. But what's interesting about Nick is that he's kind of reflective about the whole thing, that he uses Morgan's supposed failures to justify and criticize his own performance.
People like Piers Morgan, they give me no incentive to moderate. They give me no incentive to act in good faith. They give me no incentive to do any of that.
Is this guy a baby?
There is no incentive to moderate or be good faith, he says, as though his politics are normally so moderate, as though Morgan forced him to be an asshole or took him out of context somehow.
They condition a class of...
I think he's just selling his miracle drug right now. And his miracle drug is a victim complex.
People that are...
I mean, this is the thing, is that like Nick Fuentes has to sell you on this idea that mainstream media is bad. And which there is a really big level of truth to it. But not only that, but also that like independent media, independent journalism is good, and it's not. It is objectively worse in every sense. Right? Like independent media is just, there's nothing stopping them from just walking around and lying to people. Mainstream media is held to a higher standard, right? So that's the whole thing there.
Contemptuous. That's really what it is. It's contemptuousness. That's the only way to win with Piers Morgan. You get somebody that is irrationally self-confident. You get somebody that almost is contemptuously dishonest, because that's what it demands. That's the only type of person that can survive.
The only way to win with Piers and with people like him is to be contemptuously dishonest. That's not a very kind thing to say about yourself, that you lied a lot. That's not the word I'd associate.
Well, it sounds like what he's saying to me is the only way that the Piers Morgan tactic works is I get is if they find somebody who is willing to like defend their perspective, even if it's dumb. Like, and Nick Fuentes is not that. That's what I'm kind of hearing, though maybe I'm misinterpreting it or something.
With a well-meaning guy. As far as his audience is concerned, Nick Fuentes' interview with Piers Morgan was the best thing that ever happened, a triumph in the face of the liberal elite. At one point in their talk, Piers Morgan inexplicably plays a clip of Daniel Finkelstein, a Jewish British journalist.
Whoa, what the hell is that?
Since he says he's on Team Hitler, you might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum.
And Nick proceeds
I'm sure Nick will be super sympathetic
to make fun of him and say he doesn't give a shit.
Depends. I mean, Channel 5 is considered independent journalism. Yeah, for sure. But I think that's one of those situations where like that's like the exception that proves the rule. You know, that's an exception. Like Channel 5, I think, does their best to be as honest as possible, and as possible, and I agree with that. I think that they're better than most mainstream medias too. But you know, for every Andrew Callahan there's 8,000 fucking Nick Shirleys, you know. You know what I mean?
You know, I don't even know who this person is. Why is this person talking to me? This old British guy is saying me mom got killed by Hitler,
because
and
he doesn't
dad
find
got
it
killed
funny
by...
when you say Hitler's very fucking
I don't
cool.
care.
In the following days, Nick's audience made a bunch of AI songs joking about the event, some of them with around 100,000 views.
Me mom died in the holly. Me mom died in the holly. Me mom died in the alley, Mr. Mustache Man, he take her.
What the fuck is this? Damn, there's an irony here that there's a bunch of like young white men that blame immigrants for the problem, like the fact that they can't find a job using AI that kills jobs. Like it's like, okay,
That's how funny the Groypers found all of this, how well they thought it went. And if Nick made this kind of content every single day, I have no doubt they'd love him all the more. Yet in Nick's own words, his performance was kind of shitty, manipulative, justified no doubt by Morgan's nastiness, but bad nonetheless. He even suggests that this sort of conversation is harmful to the public.
I don't think that's a public service, actually. I don't think that's best for the public interest. And it's interesting, people said that's the most entertaining. I had to make it entertaining. Because if it wasn't entertaining, it would be a shame festival.
In these moments, it's almost like Nick feels the need to apologize for himself to his adoring audience. To say even
never apologize for yourselves, guys. Just be confidently who you are, even if you are a racist white supremacist that's actually Hispanic.
if you like this, it isn't me. It isn't all of me anyway. And I guess that raises the question, who is Nick Fuentes really? What does he look like at his absolute best?
I don't know. He can't stick to a diet, so we'll never know, I guess. Sad, tragic stuff, man. Tragic stuff, brothers.
A few months ago, Nick Fuentes went on Glenn Greenwald's show System Update. Greenwald is a bit of an odd duck in his own right.
What the hell? He was like Cerberus Snape, dude. What the fuck?
And I don't think it would add much to this video to describe him here, but suffice it to say, Glenn gives the good faith interview that Fuentes is so enamored with, the one that Morgan rudely denied him.
I hope people continue to watch your show, even if they don't agree with you. I think it's, as I said a few weeks ago, gotten a lot of
fucking coward
trouble for saying it. You don't spout off like as a sensationalist shock jock.
Yes, he does. What are you talking about? He said something to the effect that, like, it defended Epstein. What are you talking about?
I think are extremely well read in the areas on which you focus.
Greenwald seems profoundly congratulatory
Why is he jerking this guy off? What the fuck? Maybe that's what he felt like he had to do to get him on.
throughout the conversation, both with himself, the cosmopolitan intellectual who will sit down with anyone for an honest conversation, and with Fuentes, the dissident political figure who is often misunderstood by the mainstream media. I've never sped up a clip for a video in my life, but I have to here because I need you to understand how this man talks, and he talks a lot.
You know, obviously, you know that if I have you on my show or if anyone has you on their show, they're going to hear, you know, kind of the highlights or the lowlights, as it might be, of Nick Fuentes. Like, here's what he said about black people, and here's what he said about Jews, and here's what he said about this group and that group and this group.
Ooh.
And because you're on the air a lot, and because some of it is kind of an ironic humor that you have with your audience, which I think most people in real life is how they speak, and part of the appeal, if you're doing well on the internet, is the fact that you are being a real person. You're not presenting one fake artificial public face with a different private character. And I think that's given people, in one way, that's been very good for you. It's been part of your appeal, but another way, it's given people a very easy way to demonize and attack you by taking these quotes that can sound not just very racist, but very almost like Nazi-like and a kind of an extermination rhetoric.
People throw around these clips of you espousing Hitlerite rhetoric, but that's not the true Nick. You know, it couldn't be. I know
The true Nick likes a nice espresso with his biscotti, you know?
you better than that. There is
Oh, what's his name? Greenwald is a right-wing gay? Oh, okay. That's fucking crazy.
one back and forth in this interview that I find fascinating. So Greenwald basically says to Nick, look, I get that you don't like immigration, but these people do assimilate. The children of immigrants are by and large just Americans, so what's the difference really between today's immigrants and those of America's past?
I mean, at least it's a reasonable question.
These people start going to college, they become doctors and lawyers. A lot of them are secular. They seem American in terms of how they speak and how they behave. Like, what to you is the difference, other than just numbers maybe, between immigrants of 100 years ago and the immigrants of now?
And Nick talks for like 2 minutes here, but he gives a very straightforward answer. The difference is race.
Well, difference is race. The immigrants.
Oh, I thought Big Joel was like summing it up, but no, I thought he was like saying, "Oh, the big difference is race," and I thought Nick was going to give us something a little more dog whistly, but no, he just went right for it.
100 years ago were racially European, and the people that are coming.
Yep, and back then they considered like Irish people and Italian people not white, so it's kind of all just a social construct, right? I mean, realistically, nobody's really white or black. Everybody's like of shade of brown, so
And now they're Indian, they're Chinese, they're Hispanic, they're racially different. They look different. They just are different.
Around 15 minutes later, Greenwald presses
And their food makes me have to poop.
Fuentes on this a little more. He says, if you're so opposed to people coming into this country because they do bad things to our culture, what about educated white women? These people you scorn so much and who tend to disagree with you about everything.
On some level, the kind of bugaboo right now of American politics are highly educated, metropolitan, liberal white women who are just kind of the bane of everybody's existence, who are the
What? Why is he... What?
plight and plague on American politics. What about that? What does that reflect? I mean, these are white women, like hardcore white women, probably with a long
Hardcore. Now you're speaking my language, dude.
history of white ancestry in the United States, and yet
I mean, if you think about it, my understanding is the only reason that white women want all these minorities here is because Jamaican men love them a lot, especially the thick ones, you know what I mean? By the way, call me Jamaican.
for you and so many other people who think like you, these are like the embodiment of the threats to the American way of life. What's the explanation for that?
Hardcore white women, Glenn says, balls to the wall, just...
Damn. The kind of white woman that's like, oh, my husband was assassinated? I don't care. Kind of base if you think about it. You know what I mean?
White women. Again, Nick gives a lengthy answer, but he makes his point well in the first 10 seconds or so.
Well, I think in general, you're sort of conflating what is abstract versus what is real. White women have liberal ideas, but they carry white genes. And so
I've never really seen anybody with white jeans, usually blue, sometimes black. Personally, I don't think women should be able to wear jeans. I think that's a man thing. We got to go back to making them wear skirts.
White women have
especially in the workplace, and especially when it is windy.
eggs that when fertilized by white men are going to create white babies.
White women are white, Glenn. I want to have a white
yeah, pretty much.
White country.
That's what he's saying.
Not a country filled with people of other races and other racial interests.
I guess according to Fuentes, there's still hope for them, you know? But Fuentes seems like the kind of guy that would support rape, right? Like he supports Jeffrey Epstein, thinks he's a cool guy. So I wouldn't doubt it if he's like, well, it doesn't really matter because in the society I want, it's okay if you like rape women, and that would by extension mean white women. I think that would probably be his take. And so I think that that's probably one of the things. It's like, yeah, hopefully I get my way, and then women won't have any rights, so they're just going to get like assaulted anyway, and they won't have a vote. So like what they have to say doesn't matter. I would not doubt that at all.
I still think that white people should exist, even if there are a lot of liberal white people right now, because I'm white.
So when I look at this interaction, what I see is this desire from Glenn to uncover the true Nick Fuentes, the complicated Nick Fuentes. You're
complicated.
A reasonable guy, and so you're probably interested by how well the children of immigrants of color assimilate into our culture.
To a lot of them, they became super assimilated, super American.
And while you're watching it, you just want to yell
superpowers? That's not good. They're getting more powerful than us, you know?
At the screen, what are you talking about, Glenn? Of course that's not interesting to Nick. Why would it be? Glenn here is acting like bigotry to Fuentes is a kind of complicated instrument, something he uses to bring about his desired political ends.
I mean, I don't know who this guy is. Maybe part of it is that he's just trying to jerk him off a little bit so he'll be a little more reasonable to expose his actual views.
But no, that's not true. For Nick, bigotry is the desired political end. He wants to live around white people and not...
That's the thing, though. He doesn't. I remember I watched that Piers Morgan interview, and one of the things he said was like, yeah, I live in a dangerous black area, and he's got money, and he just hasn't moved. So obviously he doesn't want to live away from black people, or else he would have just moved. He doesn't have an interest. He just likes to say that as to be racist. But he loves living around black people.
Not non-white people. And when the simplicity of that position becomes obvious, when Glenn hits that brick wall, he has nothing left to do but kind of concede the point and change the topic.
I'm part of a group that is going extinct, and I don't want to go extinct.
Gulp.
I want to thrive.
Yeah, that's probably a universal human instinct. All right, let me shift gears a little bit.
What? What the fuck are you talking about?
And ask about Charlie Kirk.
Yes, Nick, it's very...
Guys, are we dogs? Universal instinct? What the fuck? I prefer a Disney instinct, though.
normal to be worried about white extinction.
That's what I think.
and I know that because this is a normal conversation.
This guy really does look like Server Snape, though. It's fucking throwing me off, dude.
And you are a normal guy. I'm not gonna lie to you, this was a real source of tension for me as I started to write this video. For totally selfish reasons, I wanted Nick to be this nuanced figure. Is
that a dog whistle writing the video? Couldn't have left it at? Come on.
Someone who made tons of really novel points. I wanted Nick to be the person Glenn Greenwald thought he was talking to, and I actually considered scrapping this entire video when I found out that he wasn't.
Nah, man, you gotta finish. See it through, my boy. Make that money. Catch that bag. Catch that bag. Nick Fuentes lives in one of the trendiest neighborhoods in Chicago. In Chicago, there are black people. I think that's all he means. Oh, okay. I thought he lived in like a bad area around a bunch. Wait, so he lives in a trendy area in Chicago with black people in it? But it's not a bad area. Nick, I thought that I can't believe this guy lied about how violent black people are. What the fuck, dude? I was believing him. I thought that 100% of them were violent, according to Nick Fuentes, you know? I thought. But now I'm just realizing black people are just like the rest of us. That scares me, dude. What the fuck? What's next? We're gonna start having sex with each other? What the fuck? Oh my god.
Every case Nick Fuentes makes about politics is extremely simple. For the most part, he starts with a big, audacious claim, one that expresses the emotional reality that bigotry is good, and then he manufactures dumb information.
Yeah, why can't you be bigoted against dumb people? Guys, what if we looked at somebody's skin color and decided that they were good? Wow, that's fucking lazy. What if we looked at their fucking IQ or something? What if we looked at the guys who say that pedophilia is not bad and go, that one maybe shouldn't be here anymore. You know what I mean? But I guess being white's pretty chill. And is that it? Like, what is it? Like, is it just maximize the chance that we're not going to go into the sun for a long time? Is that what it is? Like, it's a comfort thing? What are we doing here?
And arguments that support that emotion. It's really not that deep. We already saw this with Piers Morgan. Nick begins with these bold claims. Whoa. There's a white genocide going on. Most black people should be in prison. And all that sounds good to Nick's audience. It gives weight and purpose to their racism and comes off as transgressive and rebellious. But when he actually argues his point, what does it look like? Just the stupid, narrow-minded nonsense you'd expect to hear from a Fox News boomer. 5% of black men commit murder. Being on public transit with black people is a lose-lose situation.
If you're somebody else and you walk on the subway and you stand near a black person or something, maybe it's fine.
You should be afraid
Maybe it's fine. What the fuck?
All the time. That's the thinking man's position. In a different video from around 5 months ago, Nick talks about how we live in an anarcho-authoritarian state because white people have to follow the law and pay taxes, and black people get to do whatever they want.
Really? What the fuck?
Commit crime.
Increasingly, we live in a state of both.
What if you just paint your skin, man? Then all of a sudden, apparently, you're allowed to do a bunch of crime.
Anarchy and tyranny. And if you live in a major city, you know what this feels like. Anarchy for them, tyranny for us. Anarchy for the criminals, anarchy for the brown and black people, anarchy for the migrants and the invaders, tyranny for the white people, the law-abiding people, the taxpayers.
And it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I feel like black people are probably going through a lot of anarchy for a while. No? What the fuck?
Of course, crime rates have been going down for decades in America. There is no reason to use such extreme language, act like we're—
It's gotta be rough to be a conservative and have to contend with statistics. I guess that's why they just lie about statistics all the time. I don't know.
In the nightmare crime—
like my fucking asshole mother who thinks that a bunch of illegal immigrants are not paying or voting. What are you doing? Fucking wearing me down, pissing me off.
Zone.
If you drive through certain neighborhoods at night, you will be carjacked.
Whoa,
your car will—
hopefully they fucking just do a regular jacking. I gotta use a handy, you know?
Will be stolen out of your driveway. You will be followed home and held up at your home. You will be burglarized. It is like a state of anarchy.
But it's a story that matches the emotion.
Oh my god, what the fuck?
Emotional power of Nick's bigotry, and that's what really counts. Later on in that video, Fuentes goes on a lengthy tangent about some white guy whose car almost got jacked 3 times and who killed the last person who tried it.
Guy in Denver, Colorado, they tried to steal his car 3 times. On the 3rd time, the guy—
what did he do to stop him? What the fuck?
Guy snaps. He gets in his car. He chases them. He kills one of them. They put him in jail for 54 years. Now you say that's a crazy reaction.
Is that real, dude? Is that a real thing that happened?
You don't get in your car and chase somebody shooting out of the car. That's
Probably don't do that. Yeah, it sounds like a little dangerous.
insane. But we've been pushed to this point. It didn't start that way. The first time that guy had his car almost get stolen, it didn't happen the second time that guy almost got his car stolen. It happened the third time.
Who the fuck is he talking about, bro?
He doesn't mention that the murdered boy, Xavier Kirk, was 14 years old, and that his friend, who was also shot in the back, was 13. He doesn't mention that Ora Shur, the killer, shot 11 times at these kids as they were running away. I don't think these facts would change Nick's stories. I don't think they would affect him or his audience one way or...
That is pretty fucked. He just, like, shot. I mean, you know, sounds like they were caught, you know, up to trouble, but damn, you're gonna fucking shoot him while they're running away? That's pretty fucked, man.
Or the other.
That's just fucked up.
Because Nick's basic goal is to construct a society so rotten that morals no longer count. A society that necessitates evil.
Get in the car, put the seatbelt on, motherfucker, it's go time. Somebody dies.
Let's go on time. You know, Nick would never do this. That's the best part about it. He would never do any of this, dude. He's just likes to cosplay as somebody who would. He likes to rile people up to try to go like fucking attack people.
54 years in prison. It's his fault?
Maybe 67 years would be better. 6, 7?
And we can see the same kind of gesture throughout Nick's politics.
Whoa.
Like, let's talk about Jews and Israel. That subject is probably the centerpiece of Fuentes' work. It's a big part of what's catapulted him to such popularity, and it's certainly what puts him most at odds with conservative establishment politics. So let's really try to understand what's going on.
You guys remember when Brett Cooper ran like some weird defense for Nick Fuentes? That was fucking pathetic. I remember watching that a while ago. I think we were playing Silk Song at the time.
On here. To start off, there are some facts about Israel and Judaism that can make people feel a bit uncomfortable, I think. Perhaps because
is it the dreidels? Because I just don't get how they spin.
Acknowledging them is seen as some tacit endorsement of people like Nick Fuentes. So just for the record, it is true, obviously, that Jewish people have historically liked Israel quite a lot. That Zionism as a movement was constructed for and by Jews, that Zionist lobbying organizations like AIPAC have a significant amount of political influence and are driven mostly by Jewish funding.
And also, though, people like Nick Fuentes, I mean, their Bible says to love Jewish people, so I'm just a little confused, you know?
You can imagine a version of Nick Fuentes who mainly makes these kinds of points, right? Just a normal guy saying normal facts who everybody just hates for no reason. This certainly seems like what Glenn Greenwald was angling for.
Why do you consider Israeli influence and the influence of the Jewish lobby so much more of a problem than these other kinds of sort of distractions that people on the right are trying to sell to people to make them forget about Israel?
And it makes me wonder if Glenn watched even one moment of Nick talking.
Probably not. I mean, he just hates Jewish people. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. Obviously, Israel's pretty the government do be fucked, right? But he doesn't care about that. He just says things. That's all it's about. He just says things about it, like that anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, anti-anything in association. Because he doesn't like Jewish people.
Before having him on his show and gassing him up. The thing is, this is just not how bigotry works. Nick Fuentes cannot be happy dealing with basic, straightforward statements about reality, about Israel, because what's at stake for him is a much more totalizing vision of international Jewry than those facts would allow.
He did say those words, didn't he, in that Piers Morgan conversation, so...
Nick Fuentes doesn't like Jewish people, and his reasons for this position are, for the most part, quite simple. In a video from...
They're more successful than him. That's it. That's what it boils down to. That's why he decides that Jewish people aren't white, because they're more successful. And so that's one of the things, is that like when, you know, the weak white supremacist who's actually Hispanic, Fuentes, when he sits there and talks down on like non-white races and says like, oh, well, they're less than, blah, 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 he doesn't bring up imperialism or how white people are incredibly violent to, you know, achieve a lot of imperialism. He speaks down to them. He says that they're less than, they're not one of us, they're terrible. He'll say Italians and Irish people who historically have not been considered white are white, and we should value those white people. But then when it comes to Jewish people who are white, all of a sudden, well, no, they're more successful than us, and so we have to get rid of them. They shouldn't be here. They're bad people. That's his whole take. Like, that is the fucking profound unintelligence of Nick Fuentes, right? That's the whole point. He's a stupid fucking goober. And it's just about him feeling insecure. He wants to feel stronger than other groups of people. Oh, well, look at me. I'm better than you. You're fucking this, that, the other thing. You know, you're violent. You're this, you're that. Just a bunch of fucking out of context dumbass shit. But if you do better than him, all of a sudden it's like, I don't really like those people. They should probably go back to where they came from.
3 years ago, he talks about how Jews shouldn't be allowed to have political power in America. And there, his main reason was that they're liberal and pro-abortion, and so go against his Christian theocratic impulses.
Doesn't that matter? That Jews don't consider abortion to always be wrong? That Jews don't consider a lot of these things to always be wrong? That's changing the fundamental character of our Christian nation and of our Christian civilization.
How far back is this? What the fuck?
We're never going to save society if we're being ruled by judges that don't think that abortion is wrong.
That's so interesting. That's very interesting to me that, like, I don't even know if it's true that Jewish people are more pro-choice, but if it is, doesn't that like expose the entire conservative like atmosphere that's like anti-abortion? Because the Old Testament is the more brutal testament, and if the more brutal testament is okay with abortion, how the fuck would the New Testament change its mind? It makes no sense to me.
A month ago, he went on the Hodge Twins podcast and spoke about how Jews hate Jesus and think Jesus Christ is boiling in excrement.
Bro, Jesus Christ is fucking Jewish. What?
In hell.
They say that Jesus Christ is there in hell, boiling in excrement and semen. That's what the
What?
Talmud says.
Man, that's gotta hurt. You gotta be lying.
Look it up.
I feel like that's not true.
Babylonian Talmud.
Really?
They hate Jesus.
And one must ask if Nick has ever met a real person who said any of that stuff. You know, when you're trying to have fun with your friends, but somebody asks what happened to Jesus. A few months ago, Nick responded to Elon Musk tweeting that Jews are white people.
And Elon Musk replies and says, Jews are white. They're actually the peak whites in the world.
And he acts really high and mighty about it too. He gives off real, like, it's not my job to educate you vibes.
And I read stuff like that and I think,
dude.
So does he just not know? Or
isn't this awesome right now though? This is like the coolest split here. On the one side, you have Nick Fuentes, who hates all minority groups and wants them out of the United States. On the other side, you have your typical conservative who hates all minority groups except for Jews. And that's really it. If you think about it, the Jews are saving us from conservatives, because now there's infighting. Because, well, aren't Jews white? Let's see, looking at the skin, it's hard to tell, right? Isn't that so incredible? It's such a beautiful thing. Jewish people, they need this win. They need this win because the Israeli government is pretty fucked up right now. They're doing some fucked shit in Palestine. In Israel's defense, you probably shouldn't keep saying to free it, but because that's can be enticing for some people. But very interesting how this the world works.
Or is he lying? Because those are really the only options.
Jews did mass immigration to the West, and they did it as revenge.
They don't care if our country's flooded with immigrants.
Sorry.
They don't care if Europe is flooded with immigrants. As a matter of fact, they want it. It's their punishment.
Some crazy rabbi said that France had the Notre Dame fire coming to them, and that's a very normal belief among Jews.
When the Notre Dame Cathedral burned, probably at the hands of Muslims, rabbis were rubbing their hands together and saying it was revenge for the Disputation of Paris.
When you're just trying to vibe with your buddies, but somebody asks how you feel about the Notre Dame fire. This is most of what Nick Fuentes cares about. Jewish conspiracism and antagonism toward Western Christendom is very central to his ideology. And the way he talks about global politics and Israel basically exists to affirm that emotional core. To produce Israel not as a country, but as the cautionary tale of organized Jewry. To this end, Nick will sometimes say basically true stuff. AIPAC has a lot of money. Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle and the guy who recently acquired TikTok, is close friends with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh my God. That guy, you know who else is close friends with Benjamin Netanyahu? Chuck Norris. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that fucking crazy, dude?
Larry Ellison is one of the richest men in the world, net worth that is in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Hundreds.
He's given tens of millions of dollars to the IDF.
That's crazy. What if we didn't have billionaires anymore?
And he's a personal
What if we rallied around that?
friend of Benjamin Netanyahu.
And you can watch that and nod.
Wouldn't it be like, check this out, man. Check out the more intelligent left-leaning narrative is like, hey, listen, billionaires have too much power. We should stop that. rich people have too much power. We should stop that. How come Nick Fuentes doesn't just like try to ride that movement? If apparently by his logic, Jewish people are disproportionately better off, so wouldn't that hurt them more by his logic? Not mine. Okay, I'm not anti-Semitic. All right.
And think, wow, this guy's cooking. Sometimes, Nick, will get into this very reductive view of history. The only reason the U.S. supports Israel is because of Jewish influence, blackmail, and manipulation.
It's ours. It's our country. But it feels like it has been hijacked.
Whoa.
It feels like it is being exploited. It's being exploited for the benefit of another country, and they use blackmail, intimidation, bribery to achieve these ends. They do it in DC. They do it in New York. They do it in the...
If only this was true, I could believe it,
smoky corridors of power.
The only reason America got into the Iraq War was to protect Israel, and that was done at the behest of Jews.
What does Israel do for us specifically?
Specifically, I wouldn't be able to tell what Iraq does for us specifically either. No, I don't know.
So
100%. I don't know.
Okay, well, the answer is...
A lot of Israel is like a Western presence inside of the Middle East that serves as like a form of a foothold for us. That's why we give them everything that they want, pretty much.
Nothing. And the answer is nothing. We had no business in Iraq in 2003. We had no business in Iraq in 2011. It matters. Of course it matters. And here's why. My contention, of course, is that we were led to Iraq by Jewish Zionists.
The only time I've seen Nick fully argue that latter case was in a 3-year-old conversation with Destiny, the liberal streamer, and it's hard to find usable clips of it because so much of it is, it's literally like this.
Always a
None of these things are remotely similar to each other.
If I laugh, it looks like I'm not losing. If I laugh,
He's such a fucking dork, dude.
like I don't have
well, let me name off 15 random facts that I'm not going to fact check on any single thing you're talking about.
Real.
So these are arguments that only function because inconvenience.
It's interesting to watch that conversation though, because you see Myron, and that was like before his like massive anti-Jewish arc. And the reason I say that it's interesting is because back then, when Myron was on top, because the red pill was on top, Myron didn't really have these anti-Jewish beliefs. But then what ended up happening is like he talked to Nick Fuentes, and then he started to lose money rapidly. He got demonetized. His views shot down drastically. The red pill fell off when people actually realized how much of a disgusting piece of shit Andrew Tate was, and that was pretty much the entire movement. And now all of a sudden, Myron, who's failing emphatically, can't come to terms with the idea that like what he does is just not valuable to anybody in any meaningful capacity. And so his shift has been, okay, instead of trying to be not a fucking moron, and maybe change it up or try to build his brand up, he's like, oh, the Jews must have done it. That's what it is.
Convenient evidence is discarded. It doesn't matter that the Middle East is a wealthy and strategically important region filled with countries that have at various times opposed the US or allied themselves with the USSR or Russia. Egypt, Syria, Iraq. It doesn't matter that America has for a long time now been in the business of extending and safeguarding its sphere of influence in Korea and Vietnam and Europe and Latin America. We don't need to consider major reasons Bush and Cheney wanted the Iraq War, post 9/11 fervor, the desire to control the Persian Gulf and its oil. It doesn't matter that the faction of neoconservative Jewish people in Bush's administration who supported the war by no means represented the broad American Jewish community, who overwhelmingly opposed the invasion. We never even have to ask, does America's agenda so often intersect with that of Israel because Israel is, in part, an expression of American power? No, to Nick, Jews are the final boss of politics. The
Myron was always anti-Semitic. I don't think it was a core part of his brand, though. I really don't think it was like a huge push. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think he was pushing it nearly as hard as he is now. And every other day, that's all he says now. Back then, it really wasn't something he said a lot.
The end of every conversation. Jews want American military power and regime change, and they get what they want, and so anything that takes away from that point must be a distraction or a lie.
We hate that our country is being held hostage by this transnational gang.
And sometimes
what the fuck?
Nick verges into this kind of delusional sludge. In his interview with Bradley Martin, he talks about how Israel might become a stronger nation than the US because they plan and scheme so much.
So you could say,
what the fuck?
Israel's a tiny fledgling country with little weapons compared to us. But who's more powerful? A very open, short-term minded country without any long-term plans, without cohesion, without a kind of national plan, or a country that is extremely tight-knit, extremely organized, has influence in many capitals, is spread out and dispersed.
And how they might, just as a for instance, one day put explosives in American phones the way they did with Hezbollah beepers.
In 2024, Israel
That shit was crazy, bro.
goes to war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they detonate the pagers. Now you consider that in America, many of our tech companies are deeply involved with Israel. If they can listen in on Hezbollah's pagers and then blow them up, you think they don't have an insurance policy on us? Now, it's not to say, I'm sure there's not a bomb in my iPhone right now, but would you trust them to make your iPhone?
It's a bit frightening to think about, I won't lie, but crazy things do happen.
I mean, I guess if we turned away from their interests, maybe they would. I don't think so, but I guess.
Arguments like this.
I think this is the idea of just like suggesting something that has absolutely no like real proof to it in a way to fearmonger you. Well, what if Israel, that is good at, you know, that stuff. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about. That's his argument. What if they did it to us? Like, okay, I guess, maybe. What if a fucking giant marshmallow fell out of the sky and landed on the earth? I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? You know, at this point, it's not like this hypothetical is coming from a reasonable guy. It's somebody who thinks that you shouldn't be here if you have a skin color that's kind of dark.
This represents a kind of unfettered window into Nick's mind, I think. Jews here are a force so sinister that reality, even a simplified or distorted reality, cannot possibly match the story in his head. And so we must resign ourselves to the psycho future.
You know what they say, though, guys? If you can't beat them, eat them. No, beat them, join them, you know?
Americans in the last few years have come to dislike Israel, and they do so mostly because of a moral argument, because Israel has committed and continues to commit horrible atrocities against the people of Palestine. That's obviously true for the left, and also very likely true for the right. And that's because the moral argument is the one that makes sense, because it's about something that definitely exists and matters a lot, because it concerns crimes against humanity that the United States has funded and facilitated. And it's not as though Nick never makes this argument, never discusses Gaza with more
Well, I don't think he cares about that argument. I don't think he cares about Gaza, so
moral conviction.
Israel is, in no uncertain terms, committing a genocide and an ethnic cleansing.
He just doesn't care about this. He was going to pretend to care about it, you know?
In Gaza.
But for the most part, he basically hijacks that sentiment to do what he usually does. Sell his audience emotionally affirming victim slop, justified with mind demons, and half-sourced information. Nick Fuentes recently had a conversation with the original founder of the Proud Boys, Gavin McInnes.
Wow, really top-class people he's talking to, huh?
So Gavin is a kind of Israel freak. He thinks Muslims are bad and that it would be good if Israel conquered the Middle East.
I saw you talking
But guys, they can come together on their hatred of every other minority.
recently about how if Israel had its way, it would just take over Lebanon and Egypt and Jordan. And I'm like, good.
So Jews are the Doge of the Middle East, basically. Like that.
Okay. That's a crazy thing to say.
That's just the way that one might explain it. Jews would be the Doge.
I see Israel as Doge, and I see Islam as...
I thought he was making a funny joke. Barely, this is actually what Gavin McInnes thinks. That's incredible. That's fucking incredible, dude. Holy shit.
As corruption and wasting money.
You might expect Nick to be hostile in this conversation. Gavin is, after all...
Of course not. They're best friends having a minor contention, You think Gavin McInnes looks like a fucking Austin Powers villain? That's crazy. Maybe.
Acting as his ultimate political foil, the true apologist for Jewish cabal.
Like this fear of what if Israel gets so much power. Islam's got it. Islam's in our government right
Islam? The fuck is that?
Right now.
There should be some fireworks. But no, Nick is friendly. He recycles his arguments about the threat Israel presents, talks about how they might put bombs in our phones, though here calls that idea cartoonish for some reason.
And so that in this world of spying, espionage, intelligence, and especially autonomous systems and drones, you wonder, do we get to a point where Israel flips a switch and the iPhones explode? Or, and that's like a cartoonish
Can't we
example.
focus on what if Saudi Arabia gets money?
But even with these
Crazy. Real intellectual conversation happening here. Fucking definitely outpacing me.
Enormous claims being thrown around, the tone is always patient and amiable. You would never guess that these two are ideological opponents on the issue Nick holds closest to his heart.
I don't think you hate Muslims enough. That's my
Wow, that's incredible.
problem with you.
That's the purity test. I don't think you hate Muslims enough. Wow. Don't offend me, please.
I hate Muslims.
The truth is, Nick and Gavin have more that unites them than that separates them, and I think they're aware of this fact. After all, both men design their politics around bigotry, both agree that the world is best understood as a battle of races, and both speak in deranged and grandiose terms.
And look at what these fucking sheiks do. When they get their billions, they drive cars on 2 wheels, they face fuck our women. They're
what the fuck is this guy talking about?
barber pirates all over again. They just bring them over with money.
Nick would never bring up the ethnic cleansing of Gaza in his conversation with Gavin McInnes.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess I hadn't even really considered that. I mean, obviously he wouldn't. It'd be silly, but yeah, he wouldn't, because he doesn't actually care about that. That's a good way to expose that he doesn't care, you know?
Even though it would obviously be appropriate, he never argued that Israel conquering the Middle East would be wrong because conquering and killing is wrong. Because to do so would betray a kind of humanitarian impulse that has no place here. What do you mean people have rights? Who gives a shit? We are important men, and we're here to talk about racial interests and white victimhood.
What if America had all the same values, Christian and everything, but they were all Pajites?
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't do that. Like your hypothetical is too obtuse for me to think about it.
But that's where it's going.
Yeah.
And while one says that the true antagonist of the West is the Arabs and the other says it's the Jews, the precise shape of bigotry is ultimately less important than bigotry itself. This is Nick when he's not forced to be contemptuous and bad faith by the mainstream media. These are
forced. I guess forced so that he can try to like, well, that's his whole tactic, is to try to like fucking railroad his shitty ideas into people.
his beliefs on a good day when everyone is nice to him and just trying their best to learn. And it's nothing. It's a boring, empty husk. But here's the thing. Sure, you can look at Fuentes and point to the fact that he has bad, shallow politics and move on with your day, but does that really give us the full story? I don't think so.
No, it's also interesting because, I mean, this is like the threat of unintelligence right now. I think that we have like a pretty conceited effort from very stupid people like Nick Fuentes to pretty much destroy our country without them even necessarily realizing it. They're very dumb. They have a victim complex. They're not really focused on trying to be educated or actually solve problems, but they want to sell you something because they want to sell themselves this idea that they're like a perpetual victim. And so, you know, a lot of people, I think, look at them and go like, oh, that idea is so dumb. How could anyone believe it? we have a very undereducated society, and there's a massive and like intelligence gap between people. You know, that's why your parents are so fucking stupid and voted Trump, because they are very stupid. Like, they are very dumb. They fell for everything Trump said. And they're still doubling down on that confirmation bias because they don't understand themselves enough to go like, oh man, like that was a mistake. I should probably reflect inward. They don't have it in them. Like, they're not smart enough for that. And they're also just like fucking guzzling AI slop and microplastics every day, and they think it's fucking based. So this is pretty fucked.
Like, a big theme of Nick Fuentes' political career right now is people taking him like really seriously. There's a broad question that hangs over American conservative politics. Is this man the future? There are tons of largely positive conversations.
He might be. I genuinely don't think I don't think that helps anybody. I don't think that like makes the Republican Party look good. The problem with Nick Fuentes, like, obviously he's wrong, dumb, and racist, but he's also like looks really gay, and he's a fucking like a little slimy bitch. So it's not like, one of the biggest reasons that people on the left lost is because they look gay. I'm not even kidding. This is a reason why people on the left like lost like Trump. So imagine now all of a sudden people on the right just look gay. There's a lot of young men that are like, I don't want somebody that looks gay. They'll eat up a message from anybody as long as they look masculine. And Fuentes does not look masculine. So I think that's going to be a problem, which is a good problem to have because it helps deconstruct the movement, the right-wing movement. So Fuentes might be the future of the party, but he's not going to be able to really operate at all. Like, he can't be like a front runner. or else it's just going to look bad for the entire movement. He's too like beta looking.
He's had, of course, with Greenwald and McInnes, but also with Tucker Carlson, Jack Neal, Dave Smith. Even in the Piers Morgan conversation, there's a sense of self-importance to the whole thing. Morgan introduces this interview as some examination of Nick Fuentes' beliefs.
I intend it to be an examination of what you said on the record, an examination of what you believe, or what you say you believe.
But what about Nick's beliefs require examination? And how does Piers actually examine them? The guy has fairly simple beliefs, and he spends multiple hours every day elaborating on them on his own. Why are we acting like it's all a big secret? Like the public record needs to be cleared up in some way.
Well, I think a big reason for that, from Piers's perspective, is like, realistically speaking, there's probably some reasonable arguments to be made of like, yeah, probably shouldn't really talk to or about Nick Fuentes. Maybe. I mean, he's gaining popularity regardless. But I think that it's, for Piers, it's just like a justifier to have him on. It's like, okay, I'm going to actually do this. But you want to know what? Actually, I mean, not to be so like negative on the guy. I mean, Piers is, Nick is starting to become more mainstream. So I think for a lot of people, it was probably a good idea for them to get to know Nick the proper way. Like, either way, Piers Morgan, he ended up talking to Nick Fuentes, and for a lot of people who didn't know who he was, before Nick was able to get that confirmation bias down, Piers kind of corrected that, right? I mean, if you don't know who he is, but you're like, oh, I'm seeing some stuff where he kind of makes some sense, right? If you see Piers talk to him, your favorite fucking conservative that you trust, and you're just like, oh, wait, this guy's kind of an asshole. Okay, I think that that's probably going to be better off. Because for a lot of people, you know, once you find something, you have an opinion on something, that opinion is going to be stronger than it is to change that opinion. So if you have this opinion that Nick Fuentes is a decent guy, when you start hearing negative things about him, you might be like, well, you know, but he did say this, and I agreed with that, and he doesn't seem that. Whereas if you kind of get ahead of the game on that, all of a sudden he, you know, loses, I think, a pretty... potentially a tremendous amount of power there. So that might be more of what it is. You know, for us, we're all online. We all understand. But maybe that's just really not the case. I mean, for your fucking parents, they're online in a different way, buying AI iPhone covers, you know?
And look, it's not some great mystery why this is happening. Nick is a hot, sexy new guy. He's dangerous and dissident, and people like to watch him. And besides, some of these people are probably bigoted themselves, so it just makes sense for them to be nice to Fuentes. But still, that does leave the question open. What is Nick doing so right? What makes him in particular a magnet for this kind of attention? People must see something in Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, it's hateful. It's a hate thing. People are struggling, and they're trying to figure out why. What is going on in the world? Why is everything worse than it's ever been? What do we do about it? And what is the most real, like, what can we really do? You know, so that's pretty much what it is. It's a victim complex. Everybody's really frustrated about the fact that, like, we are getting absolutely, like, a dumpster fucked by really billionaires over and over again. And so different billionaire classes are desperate to try to redirect your frame of thought away from them being the bad guy. I think that Fuentes is to some degree part of that. Yeah, man, it's just hateful. People are fucking upset. They don't know what to do. And it's easy to be like, oh, it must be because, like, this person's coming here and taking my job. And those same people don't understand the threat of, like, AI. They go like, well, it makes things cheaper, but it's like, yeah, it does, but it also takes away jobs, right? And that's what you voted for Trump for. So that things would be more expensive, so that they would bring back jobs, right? Like, that's the whole, like, oh, tariff things until they bring factories back. So it's a victim complex. It's like fear. People don't know what to do. They're not educated enough to understand that the problem is like billionaires. It's like so simple. And a lot of these people like idolize and like bootleg billionaires. They think they're really cool because they have money. So that makes them like amazing. And they don't pay their taxes correctly by, you know, taking, like, they inflate the value of their companies through stock buybacks and whatnot. And they don't pay themselves a salary and instead take out low interest rate loans. They don't understand that. And there's not a big enough push to really educate people on that, I think.
So what is it?
Are we going to get a song?
In December of 2025, Coleman Hughes, a podcaster for the Free Press, made a video called Nick Fuentes Knows Exactly What He's Doing.
How has Fuentes achieved this remarkable infiltration into the culture? Well, it's all been made possible by the fact that he's successfully playing a double game.
In it, he makes the case that there are essentially two Nick Fuenteses.
Nick Fuente? Is that what you say? Wentai hentai. That's what I would say personally. But I'm a gooner, right?
One who appears on Rumble and acts like a crazy person, and the one who appears on podcasts and acts relatively normal.
Yeah, that's kind of like the whole thing. You sound reasonable, and then they get you in there, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, this is crazy, right? It's like that. It's that introduction. Yeah.
Why do Rumble Nick and Podcast Nick seem to be two totally different people?
And as you might predict from the title, Hughes concludes with the idea that this is all likely an intentional ploy from Fuentes.
Yeah, of course.
Rumble Nick energizes his core fans by attacking minorities, attacking women, and attacking America. And then Podcast Nick runs interference with the wider media, framing his sincerely racist rants as out-of-context clips.
He captures
That's pretty much exactly Charlie Kirk. How incredible.
audiences by seeming nice and then radicalizes them by being nasty. This video was influential in its own narrow way. It's important to Fuentes' studies. It's referenced explicitly by Piers Morgan at the beginning of his conversation with Nick, and I think Piers actually gets a few of his talking points straight from Hughes.
You have two personas. There's one that you roll out now for podcasts and for shows like mine, where you come across as reasonable. And then there's your show on Rumble.
Unfortunately, I don't think the video is so good. For one thing, Hughes just gets stuff wrong. Like, he says there's this big contradiction between Nick saying that having babies is important and his saying that women are annoying.
If his main fear is that the next generation of Americans won't be white enough, then why does he tell his followers that modern women are too annoying to bother with?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because in Nick's world, women wouldn't have the ability to have choice, and they could be sex objects. So,
and that married men are cucks. Shouldn't he be encouraging his followers to get along with women, marry, be fruitful, and multiply? The immigrants he's so worried about will certainly be doing just that.
Weird remark there about immigrants being so fecund, but leaving that aside, it's just a silly thing to say. Yes, you can hate women and people of color at the same time, and that's all that Nick Fuentes does.
Yeah, all these people posting this like wife and husband content.
It's so funny when my wife tells me to do stuff. I'm such a pussy.
Ugh.
You may personally believe that those two goals are at cross purposes in some way, but that doesn't mean they're actually contradictory. And besides, Nick never actually says that white people should have more babies. His one and only solution for white extinction is mass deportations.
I'm America first. I'm a nationalist. I'm a Christian. My program is I want to end mass migration. I want mass deportations.
So this is just a CinemaSin style Nick Fuentes.
Well, he does want, I mean, I'm pretty sure he does want, I'm pretty sure that he does want like a, you know, increase of white race. He tells people that they should be having babies. He tells people they should be marrying young and they should be having babies and they should be white. He does say this. He just doesn't live it.
He's ding. Later on, Hughes says this.
Podcast Nick will tell you that he's celibate because, like a good Catholic, he's waiting until marriage. But Rumble Nick will make it crystal clear that his celibacy has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with the fact that he finds women to be, quote, fucking annoying.
And it's wrong on a few levels. Nick doesn't often say on podcasts that he's a virgin because of Catholicism, and when he does, he makes it clear that that's not the whole answer. On the Hodge Twins podcast, Nick does say that he's a virgin because of his Christianity, but goes on to clarify that
because I guess he's fucking gay or something.
The real reason is that he's just kind of an autistic guy.
Yeah, well, I'm Catholic, so I'm waiting for marriage, but also, you know, I'm kind of like an autistic guy. I don't want to totally, because I feel like it's kind of a cop out to say, oh, I'm just religious. There's a lot of religious people. You know, they're doing it anyway.
On the Red Scare podcast, one that Hughes explicitly mentions, Nick says he finds women annoying and doesn't like to associate with them.
I also think that when women pay attention to you, they have a weird way of like making your world revolve around them. They just start causing problems. They just start causing drama, and it's like
shit testing.
Yeah, so I just try to
what? These people are fucking freaks, dude.
Avoid women as much as possible.
So why on earth are you doing this podcast?
So maybe there's
It's just very strange to me because like most people are annoying and shitty and are selfish and dumb and annoying. And then you're supposed to like, that's the whole point of like, you know, courting a mate. You find somebody that's compatible with you and doesn't try to steal your show. But okay.
A clip I'm missing, but if Nick says this other stuff on podcasts, doesn't that deflate Coleman's argument? Also, Nick never said on Rumble that he's a virgin because he hates women. At least I haven't been able to find it. This is the clip Hughes plays to evidence his point.
Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like, they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like, you're fat.
Because they're not 15, right, Nick?
You're chubby. You're not as hot as you think you are.
Fat and chubby? That's tough.
You fucking talk too much, you're a bitch.
But Nick doesn't say anything there about his precious, beautiful virginity. Rather, Nick is just saying that he hates women, which, you know, is the...
Well, that would be a motivator for him to be a virgin, no? That's like part of the justifier, even if he's not being explicit.
Thing he loves to say and says...
It seems like you're arguing with this guy for no reason.
All the time. And given that, what is Hughes even talking about? And that gets me to the real problem with this free press video. It just massively overstates its case. Sure, Nick Fuentes on podcasts is different from Nick Fuentes on stream. When he's talking to people, he laughs more, he's calm, he's friendly. On his streams, he leans into a shock jock persona.
Thank you for the big super chat. You're chutting out and it's disgusting. Like, you kind of just disgust me.
But he does get at the same kind of stuff regardless of the context. Nick will proudly say on podcasts and friendly interviews that he cares about white extermination, that women shouldn't vote.
Do you think women should have fewer rights than men?
Generally speaking, yes.
That the problem with Jews is that...
What does that mean? He phrases that like it's a nuance. Generally speaking, yes. You know, yeah, you think he does. What the fuck?
They personally are a tribalistic and...
Yeah, he's shadowboxing this black guy's video. Yeah, it doesn't really seem to be productive. The rest of this video was great. It seems like we're kind of nitpicking like minor details, making like a big point to do it. Now, if I did that, it's okay because I do low effort slop reactions, right? So it's okay when I do it. It's not okay when you do it. The double standard is real, just to be clear. So if I ever do this behavior in the future, don't call me out on it, all right? But he's making like a big point to criticize this guy's video. It's a little strange.
Scheming people.
Because my critique goes further, and it says that it actually does have to do with Jewish identity. Jewish identity is so powerful and so potent.
I'm so scared.
Jews refuse to assimilate. They're so...
What does that even mean? What?
Powerful. They're so tribalistic. What? They're loyal to each other. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
How can we make these bold claims?
Guys, this group is bad. Not all of them. Okay, but a lot of them. Okay. So like, let's say there's 6 million of them, and like 600 of them are doing that. That is a lot, but is it a lot comparatively? I don't know. I guess according to Nick Fuentes.
About podcast Nick and Rumble Nick.
It's funny though because you don't see him talk. Like you could say the same thing about like Italian people. And I wouldn't. I love Italian people, but I mean like if you look at like a very minority amount of Italian people, you know, in the mafia, that's what they do. They try to like stick to their own, and they're very tribalistic, right? That's what a lot of gangs do. They're very tribalistic, very regressive and stupid. So like, why aren't you making the point about Italian people? How come it's just this one person? It doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
When those two guys seem to share an identical project. Here's the thing. It disappoints me that this Coleman Hughes video isn't good because he's onto something real. When I watch Nick, I also find myself thinking about his performance, about the way he sometimes
like sexual
presents himself in contradictory and strange ways. It's an interesting subject, but one that I think is a little bit more complicated than Hughes makes it out to be.
All right. Hello, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
December of 2025, Fuentes had a lengthy conversation with Richard Spencer.
I have no idea who these people are. Well, I know Nick Fuentes, obviously.
I'm not sure if Spencer requires an introduction, but to those of you who haven't heard of him, Spencer was probably the most prominent white nationalist of the 2010s.
What happened? How'd he fall off, dude? What, did he get like a fucking, like a brown girlfriend?
He was at Charlottesville. He did a dumb little Hail Trump.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
In one of my favorite...
Wow. Hey, no one likes fucking... Nobody likes to, no one likes to be dominated by male authoritarian figures more than fucking conservatives, huh?
Episode of The Office. Yes, that's the third time I'm bringing up The Office in this video. Dwight delivers a speech that's secretly inspired by Mussolini.
Have you ever asked yourselves in an hour of meditation, which everyone finds during the day, how long we have been striving for greatness? Not only the years we've been at war, the war of work.
And Spencer always kind of reminded me of that.
We were meant to overcome all of it.
I overcome a lot. My wife can't even swallow it. It's so much.
Because that is natural and normal for us.
In truth, I don't think Richard was ever a character who people took all that seriously. He never had the kind of celebrity that...
Well, nobody really takes these white nationalists like super seriously. Nobody really likes Nick Fuentes for who he is as a person. They like him for what he says. I know that seems like a weird distinction to make, but it's like the same thing with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was Nick Fuentes, but without the hating Jewish people, right? I mean, like, nobody cared that Charlie Kirk died. That's sorry to say it, but nobody gave a singular fuck. Erica Kirk certainly didn't. She didn't give a fuck at all. But nobody really cared. Even Trump, like, what did he say? What did he say? Hey, Trump, how do you feel about your friend Charlie Kirk dying? Oh, my ballroom. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. That's personally why I manspread, because my balls need room, but nobody actually cares. All the outrage online was performative. They didn't really care. A lot of the creators who were upset weren't upset because Charlie Kirk died. They were upset because they were afraid to be killed as well. Right. So, you know, Charlie Kirk should never happen. Terrible thing that happened, but like, he's not a particularly good person. Nobody really cares. Same thing as like Rush Limbaugh. Nobody gives a fuck. All the hype died down. In fact, you know, Charlie Kirk being assassinated was supposed to be this revitalizing, you know, time for people on the right. And what ends up happening after that? Massive infighting. Candace Owens blew up. Nick Fuentes blew up. You know, the massive distinction between conservative groups, which was being racist towards everybody versus being racist towards everybody but Jewish people, really just started to really spur up. And now there's tons and tons and tons and tons of infighting every single day in every conservative movement. The manosphere is dying. like the traditional conservative movements are dying. The entire thing is like blowing up in their face, which is something that did happen to people on the left to a large degree when their mentality was popular. So things are exploding. You know, and this is kind of like the beginning of the end of like the modern conservative movement, and things are shifting drastically. So either things will level out and become like sane and normal, or they won't, and something crazy will happen. I'm hopeful of the former, but
that Nick Fuentes now enjoys, and I think that's basically because he seems like a pseudo-intellectual nerd.
The mainstream media, or perhaps we should refer to them in the original German.
Yay.
Lügenpresse.
Probably.
What does that mean? I don't understand why that was like. What did that do for his speech that was like positive and productive, you know?
The most famous thing about him is that he got punched in the face one time.
It's Pepe's become kind of a symbol.
That's funny and probably deserved for being a white supremacist.
I haven't tracked the evolution of Spencer's politics. I only have a vague idea of what's gone on with him in the last decade, and I don't really care to know more. But suffice it to say, he's gotten just a little bit weird. He's become a weird little guy.
A weird little guy. It's so funny to me.
Maybe not in the way you'd expect. Richard spends basically the entire conversation griping about the modern right and its excesses. He speaks about how conservatives have gone crazy, especially when compared to liberals.
What I see there is basically institutional liberalism and centrism. And then the right wing, which is schizoid nonsense.
He talks about how Trump is a conspiracy theorist and how conservatives can't govern.
In order to truly reflect and represent the base, you have conspiracy theorists in office. And they're almost, investigating themselves on some psychic level. It can actually...
I mean, he's not wrong about the conspiracy theorist shit and like the whole fucking election fraud stuff. I mean, Trump does play into conspiracy theorist shit all the time.
He never governed anything.
He even suggests that the idea of America first is stupid because we're a nation of immigrants and always have been.
We had other people come here over the course of the...
Well, I mean, accepting immigrants is an American first policy, so...
19th century, where...
Like, I don't understand, like, you have to understand that accepting immigrants is like largely an America first policy. We only accept immigrants because we need them. Like, the reason we take a bunch of low-skilled labor is because white people are fat and lazy and disgusting and don't want to mow their own lawns. And I'm not even kidding. There's a bunch of jobs that are just like that. Fucking white people don't want to work on farms. They don't want to work on lawns. They don't want to do any shit like that. And so they want to subsidize that with, like, cheap labor. That's absolutely the reason, right? And then when we get high-skilled labor, what are we doing? We're brain-draining a country. Hey, what if we take the best from a country? Yeah, what does that do? That just steals all the, like, people that move a country forward. Every country in the entire world was moved forward by, like, 0.1% of the population. So what happens if you take that top-tier 0.1% from another country that is underdeveloped and you bring it into America? Oh, I don't know. Who could guess? Brain drain, right? Like, we are actively, taking from other countries to be America first, regardless of the type of labor, to subsidize our aging population, to get different types of labor that we desperately need. I don't know what else to tell you. Be mad at billionaires. Stop being mad at fucking some guy named Juan that wants to fucking mow your lawn for half the price as the fucking white guy that's going to do a worse job and piss you off and make you have to worry about it.
Where it's like, you're welcome, go for it. And American nationalism is perhaps a contradiction in terms. The notion of we're just gonna put America first, or as Matt Walsh said, America only. This actually is in contradiction to our traditions. The liberals are right about many things.
And how does Nick Fuentes react to all this? Well, he loves it. I mean, he's delighted. He explains that he kind of likes diversity too, likes living in a multicultural city.
I live in a diverse city, and I prefer it.
Diversity?
I'd rather live in a diverse city than live in like the trad Catholic commune in Coeur d'Alene, or the trad Catholic city in Kansas, or the whites-only town where
I think you would be a little bored at Back to the Land.
He says that racism...
What the fuck? Wait, what the hell? Wait, Nick Fuentes is just like massively self-reporting? Did he not think anybody was going to watch that?
Is basically unpersuasive, that lots of people these days are perfectly happy not caring about the white race, and that there's no good way to convince them otherwise.
Even the racialism seems very low energy. We hear from these people like, immigration, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you have to convince people to care about it, I mean, what do you do when you confront a Gen Alpha, Gen Z guy, and you say, you need to marry a white person and have white kids, and they go, I don't care about my race. Like, I don't care about that. Like, what do you tell them? Yeah. Well, here's why. Because of, what happened 500 years ago, they're going to say, yeah, like, I have an apartment with my Hispanic girlfriend, and we go to work, and we watch Disney Plus, and we're happy as a clam. It's like, okay, well, checkmate.
So look, there is...
Wow. Nick Fuentes is very self-aware about the fact that he is running with a dying movement. I wonder if Nick Fuentes is actually like super important. I mean, think about it. What does Nick Fuentes do? He riles up a bunch of dumb racists who self-report, and then he takes their money from them by selling them this white victim complex, and then they become poor, and then they lose all their money, and then they're unable to really do anything about anything. I mean, that sounds kind of like a win. Maybe Nick Fuentes is actually incredible. I don't know. Okay.
Is no way to square this Fuentes conversation with other things he said. There is no coherent politics to draw out of this. Someone who describes America as an anarcho-tyranny where black people are allowed to commit crimes cannot say that diverse American cities are great. Someone whose entire brand revolves around America First can't nod and smile and provide zero pushback when presented with the idea that the whole America First thing is stupid.
There's a contradiction in the American nationalism itself. Anyway, some big thoughts. What do you think about that? Am I wrong that we need tariffs and everyone's going to be happy?
Hasbro does the same thing. Yeah, maybe. Maybe these people are actually super necessary and important. They just steal money from dumb fucking white supremacists.
All that stuff. Or what do you?
No, I totally agree with you, and I feel the same way.
He sells the mug. He sells the America First hat and mug. Why won't he defend it? Perhaps you want to look at this interview and conclude that Nick Fuentes is nobody, not even a real racist. He's just an ambitious guy who's willing to say whatever sounds right in the moment. And
I could tolerate racism, but a fake racist? It's upsetting.
It was fundamentally unwilling or unable to stand up for any of his supposed beliefs. And look, maybe there is some truth in that, but only a half-truth, and one that somehow gives Fuentes both too much and too little credit. After all, he is, for the most part, very consistent. There is no clip of Nick Fuentes advocating for the goodness of Jewry in America, or for the equality of women, or the importance of diversity to the American project. Yes, he humors one of those positions here, but we shouldn't miss the forest for the trees, allow one moment to totally alter our vision of someone's beliefs. Rather, I think we should look at this conversation with Spencer as an exercise in rhetoric, and one that's pretty
rather not exercise personally.
Important
rather not
to Fuentes' career. So a big part of Nick Fuentes' recent appeal, one that's obvious if you consistently watch his content, is that he can sometimes feel like a pretty moderate figure. And I don't mean that in a political sense, but in a personal one.
I guess so. Like sometimes you'll see a clip from Fuentes, you're like, oh look, he's speaking facts. Like he was talking about how Joe Biden was a better president than Trump, specifically like he didn't give in to Israel and he wouldn't go to war with Iran despite the fact that Israel wanted to. So he'll say stuff like that and it makes you go like, oh, wait a minute, maybe he is. I mean, it doesn't make me feel that way, but it makes a lot of other people feel that way. And I wonder if that's just like a desperate attempt to grab a new audience or like an intelligent attempt, really. I mean, let's be fucking real. You know, I look at that and go like, oh, okay, cool. Like he's saying something that's obvious. But a lot of other people, I think that maybe they look at that and they go, what? That's so fucking base. Wait, this guy might be good. You know, I think that's a big reason why he's been gaining so much popularity is because of all like the terrible shit that's been going on in Gaza. And it makes it so that like people on the left can feel like it's okay to be like hateful towards Jewish people. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, maybe I will tune into this guy. Maybe not super close, but maybe I'll stop by every once in a while. I'll throw him $25 and ask him what he thinks of DACA or something like that, you know?
He's capable of seeming like the normal person in the room. Nick often gets super chats, and most of them, as you might expect, are clearly from deranged internet weirdos. And a lot of what Nick does is yell at these people and tell them to chill out. At one point, some guy asks him how he can support the America First movement on LinkedIn, and Nick gets so mad.
What's the best way to show support publicly? 20K followers on LinkedIn with America First without being canceled.
Please do not dox yourself on LinkedIn. You do not show support on LinkedIn.
Or at another point,
what a fucking moron.
Wiper mom asks for Holocaust revisionist literature for her 10-year-old son.
That's crazy.
Bricks that aren't propaganda for a 10-year-old boy interested in World War II?
No, I have no book recommendations for a 10-year-old. I don't even know what a 10-year-old would read.
That's actually fucking crazy. Damn. I guess he's trying to stay away from the grooming narrative. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to be considered like a groomer. What's really good? What propaganda can I push onto my kid to make them believe something? Ah, the Bible. Wait, what?
That can't be real. What red-pilled World War II books that deny the Holocaust do you know of for a 10-year-old? For what, a 5th grader? Whatever? What Holocaust revisionist literature do I have for a 5th grader? I don't have anything for you. I'm sorry.
That clip.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Nick Fuentes explaining to his fan that he doesn't have any good Holocaust denial for 10-year-old Rex off the dome.
I feel like you know, what is it? Breitbart would do that if they hated Jews. You know what I mean? Like they'll do like anti-black fucking rhetoric and about how like slavery was actually not that big of a deal, but
it's really good. Like you have to give it to him.
Any book recommendations that aren't Jew propaganda about the Holocaust for my 10-year-old?
Nick plays into this kind of moderate persona a lot, and I think it's a great help to his political project. Like, Nick often talks about how he's not actually a hateful racist, how his beliefs don't come from looking down on black people, and how real racists need to be shunned.
I feel like people have kind of gone full circle, and now 10 years later, people are like, they actually hate non-white people and go, yeah, I'm racist, so what? And I don't know, I feel like maybe that's...
Isn't that what Fuentes said in his conversation with Piers Morgan, though?
A mistake, in a sense? This whole, like, autistic, racial, like...
Well, so part of the strategy from Fuentes, I've seen him do it before, is he plays this game where he goes like, no, I don't hate black people, but, like, black people should feel the same way as me about black people. Like, you should be a black supremacist and want to be isolated away from white people because you'll have your own interests at heart, or, you know, things like that of that nature. So that's kind of his strategy. I mean, I doubt that he actually, like, legitimately hates black people. I think that the debate between whether he does or doesn't hate them is probably unproductive in a sense. Like, I will just say, like, oh, he hates black people because, like, yeah, that's the general sentiment. He doesn't want them around him. But does he personally hate them? Probably not. But it's just like, what's the tactic to get rid of them, or what's the tactic to, I guess, pretend that I want to get rid of them? But I think he would if he could. I think he knows that he can't, so I think he's just capitalizing off this movement. But
actual racialism, actual racial militant hatred, it is like a freak show because that comes from an emotional place.
And you can see how this kind of position anchors him as the serious alternative, right? Nonsense claims about black crime rates and white genocide sound more rational when juxtaposed with a racist caricature who justifies their hatred with nothing but a love for hate. We are not like him. We're a movement of principled and thoughtful people.
White people should go out of their way.
He's a faker. Don't say that, dude. Don't insult Faker, bro. He's the best league player ever.
To avoid black people when they see them.
Absolutely. They would be wise.
We can see the same sort of gesture in the way that Nick talks about the Super Bowl halftime show. So in a video made very recently, Nick defends Bad Bunny's performance at the Super Bowl. In his view, it wasn't just a good show, entertaining and fun, but also basically inoffensive.
It was good. It was fun. It was lively. Let's be perfectly honest. It wasn't a militantly woke show. It just wasn't.
He even gets mad at a super chatter for disagreeing with him and says that while he still believes in white genocide and wants a white country, he thinks the whole movement has gotten kind of lame.
The halftime show was in Spanish and all the performers were brown people. The message was, this is what America looks like, a mosaic of Latin peoples. Clearly it was political. Clearly it was a middle finger to white people. Weird take. Are you even a white nationalist at this point?
Honestly, I don't feel like one anymore. I feel like, do I want America to be a white country? Yes. I'm pro-white, but the movement has just been captured by losers and idiots.
So what Nick says here doesn't make any sense to me.
It does. I think it does make a lot of sense to me because I'm racist. No, I think it makes a lot of sense to the message that he's pushing because you can't, it's like a pick your battles type of a thing. If every single time something happens, every single time there's an event that's not necessarily like white and you have a meltdown about it, you're going to seem unreasonable and like optically like a fucking worthless moron. But if you're just like, yeah, you know what, it was a good show, you know what, yeah. I mean, he should say like, yeah, it probably shouldn't have been all. That's his biggest issue, is he should be like, yeah, you know what, there should have been like more white representation. But that's just not the fight, the battle to fight for him, which makes sense. You know, you have to start there. So it kind of makes sense to me. But it makes sense to me if you're looking at this like from like an optics perspective, which Fuentes might be doing, trying to be, you know, some form of intelligent about it. Not that fucking bigotry is intelligent, but...
Like, if we agree with him that Latino immigration is a big problem, and that these people don't assimilate, and that they're destroying white culture, surely it just makes sense to hate Bad Bunny's show. He mostly sings in Spanish, and he said ice out at the Grammys.
That is true.
I'm gonna say ice out.
The white nationalist case against it seems solid to me, all the more solid because the show appears fun and apolitical. You know, it literally normalizes diversity and Latin American immigration. But of course, Nick has an extremely negative reaction to things he finds cringy. And in the case of the Super Bowl
that's probably actually where it really comes from. If he thinks it's cringe, it's dumb, you know?
Halftime show, I think he's clearly responding to the fact that Turning Point USA, the conservative outfit started by Charlie Kirk, made their own alternative halftime show.
Which is so fucking pathetic, dude. It's so I think a lot of people were turned off by that because that is cringe and it is stupid and it was unproductive and it was just dumb because it was not good. They had like, what did they have? Like the guy who said he likes to fuck little girls, fucking Kid Rock on there. Like, wow.
And that it sucked ass.
I just want to catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer,
Their show was, as Nick correctly observes, low energy and grievance fueled, and so potentially harmful to the conservative cause.
Pretty much, yeah.
So if that stuff's bad, if there are cringe people advocating against the Bad Bunny show, then that show must have been good and inoffensive, and all the people mad about it must be stupid losers.
I just want to cut my grass, feed my dogs, wear my boots.
I love this. I can't wait for the part where he hates trans people. It's amazing.
Not turn the TV on, sit and watch the evening news.
Nick doesn't change.
Come on, get us there. Get us there.
His beliefs. He says he's still advancing a white supremacist position, but his enemy is nonetheless to the right. These people who are on the wrong side of some aesthetic war, and so must be essentially wrong-headed in some way. And nowhere is this pseudo-moderate tendency from Nick more clear than with his discussions of his most recent political rival, Candace Owens. For those who don't know, Candace Owens is a conspiracy theory aficionado. She believes that Brigitte Macron is secretly a man.
I would stake my entire
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Professional career on the fact that Brigitte Macron, the current First Lady of France, was born a man.
And that Emmanuel Macron might be plotting her death. Recently, she got way into the idea that Charlie Kirk's death
I don't want to cut my grass. You know what I mean?
was related to Israel in some way.
About 48 hours before Charlie Kirk died, Charlie informed people at Turning Point, as well as Jewish donors.
My understanding is that like they weren't even friends anymore. Like they hadn't talked in like 2 years. She just told people they were like best friends.
And a rabbi that he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause outright. Okay, Charlie was done. And then
That just seems highly unlikely.
and did he, just 48 hours later, conveniently catch a bullet to the throat?
It's hard to overstate just how often Nick makes fun of Candace
Because fucking Charlie's he's a real American redneck, dude.
for these beliefs. For the last month, he's talked about her constantly, the way she gathers knowledge, her whack job approach to the world.
If you're on the Candace Owens train, I'm not even.
I think I would consider it as long as it was consensual. I just wouldn't want any guys with bigger dicks than me going before me. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Gonna pretend like I'm
It's kind of tough to run a train because he's, if you're, it's basically like if you're not first, you're last scenario. You know what I mean? It's kind of gross.
going to try to appease you. It's wrong. It's stupid. All of it is stupid, and I'm not going to entertain it at all. Candace Owens says, "Oh, they're trying to kill me. We haven't seen a shred of evidence. Like, where's the evidence?" She just sounds crazy. Then she goes right into, well, I know Tyler Robinson is innocent because Charlie Kirk visited me in a dream and told me so. Come on now. I mean, and some people are saying, well, hey, dreams can be prophetic. Yeah, they can be, but they're fucking not evidence, you know?
Yeah, true. I hope the dream I had last night wasn't prophetic. I was chilling, I was dreaming. I forgot exactly what was going on, but I was in my basement with my wife, yada, yada, yada. Long story short, she starts screaming at the top of her lungs that it's cold. And I was like, oh my God, because the implication there was like, oh my God, the pipes burst. And I go upstairs and the pipes are bursting. But as I'm walking upstairs, I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck was that? So I hope my pipes don't burst. Especially upstairs, but not downstairs. You'd think that, like, how the fuck does that even happen, dude? Oh fuck, dude, we're about to hit like a fucking, it's about to get cold. It's like a cold thing is gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna blow up the house. Oh, dude, this is fucking crazy. Dude, I knew it. I knew that was gonna happen. I don't know what I'm saying, but that is the dream I had yesterday. It was fucking crazy.
No.
So I find Nick's whole emphasis on logic and rationality kind of interesting because it just feels so artificial. Fuentes is, after all, a conspiracy theorist, someone who has a tenuous connection to reality and a loose grasp on evidence. 3 years ago, Nick said that he thinks the COVID vaccines are poison in some way, and that he would refuse to accept any proof to the contrary.
So what would it take to convince you that like the mRNA vaccines were good?
Well, you're not going to convince me of that, but here's the thing. I just have a general distrust.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that he was lying. What? Because that's what you had to do back then. This is one of those things, if you keep it in the context that like left-wing ideologies were more popular back then, you kind of have to stick together. So if you want a strong audience, you have to fucking drink the Kool-Aid of like, well, it's all fake actually.
Cost of everything? Medication.
He said that he doesn't know if dinosaurs existed.
I already know Nick doesn't think dinosaurs are real, right?
Well, I don't know. I'm not an archaeologist, but
incredible.
But I don't know if I believe that 100%.
More recently, he said he believed in astrology and numerology, said that these things are witchcraft and should be taken more seriously.
But the astrology thing, to me, people are not taking it seriously enough because first of all, astrology is real. Going by another word, you can call this witchcraft, paganism.
Do you think numerology is real as well?
I do.
Oh my God. You know what threatens him about it? Is that people are turning to like astrology and like other dumb shit instead of the other dumb shit of religion. You know, like that's what their cope is. It's like, hey, what if we believed in a fucking magical apple curse? I don't know. That's kind of crazy. We used to be immortal. This is a little crazy. What if we believed that the month that you're born in, dictates your personality. That one might make more sense. I'm having a low energy day. I guess a Libra fucked a Zionist. What's another month? I don't know. You can understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Oh, there must be an emotional leech. What do they call them? Emotional vampire. You know, all this sounds more logical than a dude impregnated a young girl and then wanted his kid to die. 6-7? I don't know. Maybe, so I think that's why. That's why the conservatives don't like the witchcraft and shit.
Really? I do.
He said he believed that Israel controlled the Epstein files and was using them to blackmail Trump, and that's probably why Trump bombed Iranian nuclear facilities like 9 months ago.
So it's bookended from when the Epstein files are brought up as a threat against Trump to when they're buried by the DOJ with the war in Iran. And given that Epstein was potentially Israeli intelligence...
Dude, energy vampires are so real, bro. Come on, stop. I know my ball. I know ball. I know ball.
I think all signs point to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem controlling those files.
I'm not sure if he still thinks that.
Maybe it's Tel Aviv. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't fucking know.
Despite the wellspring of new Epstein content, by the way, I watched his recent stuff on the subject and he doesn't bring it up. Around 3 years ago, Destiny, who I know has an oddly prominent role in this video, was talking to Nick and 9/11 trutherism came up. Nick and his friend Sneeko wanted Destiny to watch a lengthy film arguing against the consensus 9/11 narrative.
You seen the new Pearl Harbor, the 9/11 documentary?
No.
Oh, you gotta watch that.
And they made fun of him for wanting to do research and not just watch the movie.
Put it on stream right now. It's on YouTube.
No, because
why won't you watch it?
Because
you have some time right now.
Watch it.
You're gonna call Hillary and Bill up before you watch a movie?
Destiny.
Isn't it funny that Sneeko is the bitch in his relationship? We watched that Willie Mack video. It was really good the other day. And it was Sneeko just gets bullied constantly by everybody in the group. He's the whipping boy.
Why don't you just watch it with an open mind?
I actually call Hunter Biden.
With an open mind and be open to the possibility that the things in it are true.
Sometime later.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Destiny watched that film and wanted to argue about it.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm a big believer of the official story now. Before I was like, damn, I don't know. But now after looking at everything, I'm like, damn, the official story holds up pretty well.
Nick, though, was totally unprepared. He hadn't seen the film recently, and I frankly doubt that he'd have some sterling 9/11 truther argument in the best of times.
Why wouldn't we just scramble F-16s?
I don't know. I don't remember. I haven't seen this one in a million
Oh,
years.
yeah? Do you remember any of the arguments we have?
I remember the NORAD. That it was like there was a drill or something or whatever that day. You just watched 5 hours of 9/11.
Yeah, because you told me to. Because
I was on the beach this weekend. Okay.
But what's incredible about this conversation is how Nick justifies his total lack of knowledge on the subject. Around 10 minutes in, he says this.
I think there's something about our assumptions about the world, which is why, and the foundation is, I think things are not as they seem. And you are willing to say, oh, they basically are as they seem.
It's the end.
Wow, I love that. Very reductionist. No, that's stupid. Only an idiot would think that. Things are as they seem. It's just that to you guys, you're dumb and you don't understand what's going on. You see like a failing world around us where we are losing money and go, things are not as they seem. It must be brown people. They control all the governments. What the fuck? And it's like, no, dude, you know, the guys have like a lot of money and then they own the companies and they make massive profits and still do mass firings of 50,000 people at their companies so they can implement AI to kill your jobs. That's probably the problem. That's probably the issue. You know, the president who did a fucking meme coin that made him $3 billion and like the top 25 people who purchased that coin got a one-on-one conversation with him. That's probably the problem. You know, that same president who decided that he was just he was gonna use an executive order to try to stop local governments and the federal government from doing any safeguards in AI for 10 years. That might be the problem. You know, every time there's a big policy shift that has a tremendous impact on the market, somebody somehow gets insider information and makes a ton of money. That's probably the problem. So, like, things are as they seem. They're very basic. The world around us is very basic. The corruption is very basic. You're looking for a boogeyman. Okay? You guys worship a pedophile. Probable pedophile who won't release the client list. And he's in the files. Like, things are as they seem. The swamp Trump was talking about, he is the swamp. Okay? And every other fucking day that you're like, guys, I don't really... Why does everything have to be political? It does. Like those same people who complain that everything needs to be political are the same people who have been apathetic and not voting, and that's why things have gotten worse for us. So just keep it in mind, stinky bakas.
anthem of every conspiracy theorist, and expressed with a clarity I don't normally expect from that set. It's good to advocate belief in conspiracies, belief in 9/11 trutherism, not because I have sufficient evidence to believe that case, but because, you know, shady stuff happens sometimes.
So true, King. So true.
Reality is not what it seems, therefore it's whatever I personally want it to be. Nick
Oh, I like that world. That's very easy for me to digest.
doubles down on this line around 20 minutes later when he says this.
Now, my job as somebody that does my show is to challenge the government. My job is to challenge the national security apparatus. And the reason why I think I don't have as much responsibility as maybe you think I do, and people get on my case even from my side. They're like, you hate women too much, or, you know, you say too much racist things or whatever. And it's like, the way I see it, there is so much moving against those trends that if I'm being extra, if I have a superfluous amount of skepticism, or I push a conspiracy it's not, you know, totally sourced or whatever, it's like, well, you could turn on the television, any channel, any day of the week, and get the government line and get the thing that you're pushing.
It doesn't matter if what I
understand what he's saying. I kind of get what he's saying a little bit. It's just his application of it is fucking dog shit. Like I would say that, you know, when you're in a relationship, you know, this is obviously, you know, the wife guy over here, right? Cool guy. There are instances where you don't have to be as like intelligent necessarily, because you know your partner is going to be on certain topics. Like there's times where I lack a bit of empathy on certain talking points on things that bother me and frustrate me. And like I know my wife will be more grounding on it, so it kind of gives me the opportunity to be those things. And sometimes it has to do with like family, treating other family poorly, in my opinion. And my wife generally agrees with me, but it is a little more complex than the way that I'll you know, feel about it. But I know I can do that because, you know, I have like this surrounding you know, pushback. Or I'll give my wife advice sometimes, like at her job, where she's somebody who is, you know, she's a person first job. She's a behavioral specialist for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And her responsibility is to advocate for people, but also like she has to have an understanding of the business side of things, right? And so she'll talk to people and she's like, you know, she'll express a frustration about something that's going on at work. And she'll express that, you know, basically about how she feels like they're not being person first enough, right? And I'll be like, well, why don't you advocate harder? She's like, well, I have to keep the business side in mind as well. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So how many people are you talking to that are exclusively keeping the business side in mind? Oh, everyone else. Okay, so do you really have to keep the business side in mind? It's you and 3 other people having a conversation. Those 3 other people are already advocating for your company. So what if you cared less about that? Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's kind of what I'm hearing. I kind of get what he's saying. Maybe I'm being too charitable, but I understand what he's saying. But I think he's just doing it as an excuse to play into like conspiracy bullshit.
I say is true. It doesn't matter if I have integrity, because you already have the consensus media arguing the opposite side. So looking at this, I can't help but think, you know, where does he get off judging darling Candace Owens? So what Candace believes with zero evidence that Israel killed Charlie Kirk or whatever. I'm sorry, are things as they seem? I don't remember getting the memo that things are as they seem. So what, she thinks Emmanuel Macron is trying to murder her? There's a whole establishment media apparatus in place, and all it ever does is peddle the narrative that Emmanuel Macron isn't trying to kill Candace Owens.
That's true, dude.
Responsibility does she really have, one could ask, to not be a freak? In the end, Nick's repulsion for characters like Candace is obviously more about branding than anything else, a way of detaching himself from aspects of his own far-right movement that he
I wonder if part of this is his age. I mean, he's 27 now, so like a lot of these COVID things were going on like, what, 5 years ago when he was much younger, so he's like 21, 22. Now he's 26 or 7. So I wonder if part of it's him just like growing up.
Personally finds embarrassing, even though he has no meaningful disagreement with her or the way she approaches reality. Nick wants to announce himself as a reasonable political thinker, and folks like Candace just make the project of hardcore white guy stuff look bad. And
probably. I think that he's probably trying to be aware of his optics. I guess Candace isn't, although she's making a ton of money being a conspiracy theorist, so maybe she is.
Personally, I see Nick's conversation with Spencer as the height of this persona. If I sat down with Nick Fuentes and said, you know, boy howdy, I sure do love living in diverse cities. Just think about all the yummy food you can eat, and it's fun to be friends with all different kinds of people in a big melting pot. Hot take, I actually don't think Nick would totally agree with me. I think he would say I was trying to kill all white people because I hate them and think Jesus Christ is rotting and poopy. But Nick...
That's crazy. He might agree with you in some instances. I guess it depends on the person he's talking to, right?
Nick isn't talking to me. He's talking to Richard Spencer, an out-and-out ethno-nationalist, and this provides a much-needed opportunity to be a bit reflective about his political project. He's not some vapid ideologue, right? He doesn't have an emotional attachment to any of this, and so he's willing to state the obvious.
At the end of the day, we have to grapple with the fact people like the way things are. People are going to complain and bitch and...
Am I a destiny realist? What the fuck does that mean?
talk about, I want to be a part of something bigger. People kind of actually like the way things are a lot, and you can see it in their behavior.
Maybe diversity is kind of good. Maybe living in a big multiracial society is better than the alternative. Maybe racism is broadly seen as a loser ideology, and maybe that's for good reason. And yes, Nick does contradict himself here, undermine his profound belief in the goodness of bigotry. But in a way, this contradiction legitimizes him, makes him out to be a deep and practical thinker about the project of hate. I want to be clear here. I don't think that any of this could really be called a grift. That Nick is just pandering to his audience. That's Coleman Hughes' take, and I don't think it adds up.
I think he generally believes what he's saying. I also think that he doesn't think that it's actually going to come to fruition. And that's why he's like, says some of the things that he says. I think he's willing to sensationalize, especially depending on the audience, or, kind of hide his power level. To try to, acquire a bigger audience. I don't know if I think he's a total grifter, but like I do think that he will say things that he doesn't believe, just to push the overall view that like white people are some kind of a victim threat.
After all, the
I don't know what that means based on politics, not based off the court. Are you asking me if you're just asking me my opinion on Destiny? Is that what you're asking me?
Opinions Nick shares on his stream are often pretty unpopular among his fans. Do you think the Groypers liked it when Nick said that diverse cities were nice? Of course they didn't. I had to stop watching after Nick said he likes living in a diverse community.
Ew, Nick, what the frick?
What the fuck? This is brutally revealing. Both are useless cucks. Bro, prefer diversity? Might as well just retire and stop being pro-white. The whole point of being against the Jewish agenda is that it's anti-white. If you're not fighting for your people, then what are we doing here? The comments are all like this. I basically can't find a positive one. Does it make sense to look at that and assume that Nick is lying to get people?
How many views did that video get? I wonder, like, did Nick just think that nobody was really going to watch it that was a fan of his or something?
People to like him? I don't know. I guess my instinct is to say probably not. If anything, I think Nick is profoundly true to what he believes, but that this truth it's at tension with itself. Nick lives two lives, both of which are equally important to him and his...
He might also just be kind of an emotional guy that's just like speaking off the cuff sometimes. I don't know, maybe that's part of it. And he doesn't like stay like, he's like, oh, I feel like it's actually good today. You know what I mean? Instead of staying consistent.
Audience. Like, of course, he wants to be the bigotry goblin. His entire worldview is built on saying over and over that white men are being victimized by every other group of people, that they are literally out to get you.
They're not part of it. They're not part of European civilization. They're not part of Christian civilization. They need to be kept out of the corridors of power.
That they are literally out
Whoa, scary.
to get you. But this is a stupid guy thing to say, and we've seen what it looks like in practice. Lying and being weaselly with Piers Morgan, giving vapid or delusional answers to Glenn Greenwald or Gavin McInnes. The problem isn't just that it's an ideology built to appeal to the freaks of this world, but also that it can't be argued well, that it's at odds with basic reality. And so Nick must, at times, embrace this other form, become a guy who cares very much about evidence, who hates all the reactionary culture war bullshit, who can't stand nonsense conspiracies, who would rather live in a diverse city. And the point of it is, this is the only way Nick gets to look smart, the only break he gets from the banal humdrum of life as a professional bigot. In truth, I think this is the essential character of Nick and the heart of his appeal.
That's interesting. I wonder if there's any part of it is that, like, when he actually goes outside and talks to people, I think his like opinions change a little bit in some way, shape, or form, because now he's actually having somebody to dialogue with. So he'll have like very extreme opinions when he's by himself. And then when he talks to people, he like changes. I don't know. I don't know if it's intentional, but all of a sudden he becomes like, oh, I'm talking to a person. This is like very real conversation. I'm not really talking to myself and being able to feel good about myself by saying the most outrageous shit.
He is intellectual and convicted, and in some ways open-minded, and the greatest proof of that is that he sometimes refuses to defend the insane things he believes. This is the Nick Fuentes who goes on Piers Morgan and acts like a freak, only to stream afterward and reflect about how much of a freak he was. This is the Nick Fuentes who consistently champions a shallow and single-minded racism, only for hordes of podcasters to invite him on their show in search of hidden depth. This is the Nick Fuentes who argues day in and day out for mass deportations, only for big guy 2254 to pay him $25 to ask him how he feels about letting the immigrants stay.
Well, but what about them? What about us, bro? Too bad, so sad. The world is a tough place.
Damn. It do be a tough place, man. It do be a tough place.
So that was supposed to be the end of this video. I was going to say that, and then we were going to have
just turn it off right now.
Our Nick Fuentes beatdown. and that was going to be it. But then Donald Trump launched a war against Iran, and it's such an important event and frankly such an interesting moment in Nick Fuentes' career that I felt like I had to talk about it. I think it really exemplifies the way Nick Fuentes approaches politics. So the relationship between Donald Trump and Nick Fuentes goes back a decade, but it's also pretty easy to explain. Nick, per his description, began his political career electrified by Trump.
He was like the savior of Western civilization.
He constantly is like kind of not threatening, but like disagreeing with Trump about things. I wonder if Fuentes starts to push up the political pressure and like the disagreements with Trump when he feels like Trump isn't doing enough, and then he goes back and then he kind of like reels himself back and forth, almost like a threat. Like, yeah, I don't like the way that he's doing this because he knows he has like a big audience. I wonder if part of it's he does that on purpose. And like, okay, somebody around Trump is going to watch this in some capacity and direct him on something. Because Nick does have like a big, he does have a big, like kind of a big voice in some of these things, especially in the online incel audience, which Trump really wanted and he got.
We looked at him as like, and by we, I mean me and all the online kids, teenagers that supported him, we really believed the hype.
But now, in dreary 2026, he hates the guy and spits on him every chance he gets. As I touched on earlier in the video, that's in large part because Trump hasn't deported enough immigrants, never built the wall, etc.
Instead of giving money for a border wall and fixing immigration, they did a corporate tax cut. They did the same thing.
But there's also a deeper fury at play there. In a recent video, Nick talks about wanting some far-right party to take over the United States and run it as a dictatorship.
And I want some kind of political outfit to be created that will eventually take over this country and then run it like a dictatorship and fix it.
Isn't that what Trump's trying to do? What the fuck?
And he talks about how Trump refused his many opportunities to enact that dictatorship.
Over and over it's happened. How many wasted opportunities? The COVID pandemic, the BLM riots, the stolen election, this. And has he ever used that as his Reichstag fire? Has he ever used it to actually expand or institutionalize his political power? No.
So when you look at a clip like that, Nick's animus for Trump makes a lot of sense. He saw that Trump was a strongman authoritarian and hoped he could destroy America and install the new tyrannical order of 4chan dweebs. And when
pretty much. It's so funny though, like I remember everybody's like so against all these fucking like extremist communists or whatever on the right, but then that's kind of what they are to some degree. Like they want this authoritarian structure, like 100%. They are like such cum guzzlers. They put such bootlickers for like authoritarian men. It's so fucking gay. It's so strange. It really is strange. It's fucking weird.
When that didn't happen or didn't happen enough,
like I mean, if you think that a fucking capitalist dictator is going to run things well, by that logic, you could also just as easily think that like a fucking communist dictator can run things well, right? Like it really, I mean, either theoretically anything could work, right? But like both extremes don't play into the human condition. These people are just like weird, insane freaks that believe basically the same thing, that an extreme version of a government could absolutely like to work in a country and everybody could be happy and healthy, which is ridiculous.
Nick took his toys and went home. All this to say, it's not surprising at all that Nick Fuentes is very angry at Trump over his war on Iran. The war is blatantly in line with Israeli interests and is therefore just more evidence that the transgressive and dangerous Trump is actually just another, establishment shell. Still, the way Nick talks about the subject is really fascinating. Nick starts off his video on the subject by talking about how Israel forced the hand of the US.
This is the Jews' world, and we're living in it. This is Israel's world, and we're living in it.
The last president who went against Israel was JFK, and he was assassinated for it.
And so people have said, well, the reason President Trump couldn't refuse is because he knows they would kill him. That's what Tucker Carlson said today. He said, you can't say no to Israel because the last president that did is JFK.
So this sort of rhetoric, it basically makes apology for Trump, right? Trump is just
Yeah, I guess so. It makes it like, oh, we'll take you out if you fuck with us, which I don't think is the case, but
another American politician bending the knee to Israel, and there's really nothing here we can blame him for. Nick does say that even though Israel would probably kill him if he went against them, Trump still should have, because that's what America first means.
So I'm sorry. That's not an excuse. When they say, well, they'll kill Trump, they'll kill his family, Vance knows they'll kill him, they'll kill his family. Well, that's what you signed up for. Let him do it. Let him do it. Go to the American people and say, this is happening.
But that's kind of a high standard, right? And one that still places the brunt of the responsibility on Israel. Trump is not a real actor. He is mostly just a vessel through which the plot can work. Now, who knows? Maybe it's true that Trump has done nothing special here, that Kamala Harris and Biden and Obama would have waged this same war.
I don't think so, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I mean, literally, at one point he says that Biden wasn't willing to go through with things or to keep the whole attack on Iran at bay. So he doesn't believe that.
Not impossible that that could have happened. Still, I'd argue that the information we have makes that a very hard pill to swallow. After all, Biden didn't go to war with Iran. If Israel can force our hand now, why didn't they under a beautiful Joe? And Obama was responsible for the Iranian nuclear deal, the one that Trump threw away in his first stint as president. The possibility of Iranian weapons of mass destruction is the pretend reason Trump waged this war, so it at least seems relevant that Trump clearly laid that groundwork.
Also, there's been no evidence of them trying to accumulate like any weapons of mass destruction or any nuclear arms. Trump just decided to go after it, and like no intelligence, like U.S. intelligence, came to that conclusion. Like it's funny. It was funny. I was watching Tulsi Gabbard get like grilled about it, and she's like, "Well, it's not really my interpretation to, or my job to interpret the data," and she wouldn't give an opinion on, like, hey, based on all the information you gave us, there's no threat, right? She's like, "Well, I can't really say that, you know."
We will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon.
Whoa!
It's a very
Put a nuke in my pussy, daddy.
simple message.
Leaving that aside, Trump just loves conflict, right? Loves using his powers in strange ways to enforce some grandiose vision of American power.
And to distract from him being in the files.
Launched a stupid trade war and has bombed more countries than any other president, and he saber-rattled with Greenland and kidnapped the leader of Venezuela. Nick was explicitly in support of those latter two things, by the way. He likes it when America does insane bullshit.
We need a truly great leader. And what is a great leader other than a leader that takes territory? Other than a leader that gets victories. You know how you're winning? You have more territory than you started out with.
But aren't these actions
Whoa. Epic W?
basically consistent with Trump's choice to go to war with Iran? Finally, Trump's government is filled with insane Jesus freaks and war hawks who are obsessed with protecting Israel. Mike Huckabee, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio. That's not true for every president, is it? My point is, we can't know what would have happened under a Kamala Harris presidency, but it nonetheless seems really
I think it would have been significantly better, let's be real.
really stupid to suggest that America is at war right now because Israel threatened the life of Donald Trump.
Go to the American people and say, this is happening. And if I die, you know who's responsible.
To understand what's happening in American politics right now, we must at some point be able to state the obvious. Regardless of what other factors are at play here, Trump and the people who like Trump and surround Trump just like doing this kind of stuff. But here's the thing, I think Nick knows that, at least on some level. Later on in this very video, he talks about how he's gonna vote for Democrats now.
If Rubio or Vance are on the ticket in any form in 28, I'm voting for a Democrat.
And that's because the GOP sucks, but also because as much as he hates Democrats, Biden didn't take us to war in Iran.
Maybe if a Democrat were in office, we wouldn't go to war with Iran. Joe Biden kept us out of a war with Iran. We didn't have a war with Iran under Joe Biden. And some people say, well, you would have gotten it anyway. Okay, so then voting doesn't matter. Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe it would have happened either way, but
He really fucking came up with like a crafted argument as to why he was gonna do this. Like you could tell he was thinking about that before he fucking said anything. Holy shit. Okay.
the facts are the facts, right? Trump did this, Biden didn't, and to some extent, that matters. He gets at a similar idea earlier in the video when he talks about J.D. Vance for like 10 minutes, judges him for an interview where he said that Biden was too weak on Iran.
J.D. Vance sat with Sean Hannity and he said, we have to hit Iran hard. We have to punch them hard. You can't do these small strikes like Biden is doing. You have to punch them in the face.
A lot of people recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them hard, and that's what he did when he took out Soleimani.
So we see in this video the problems that naturally emerge from conspiratorial thinking. Conspiracy theories are good when you want your audience to believe a big idea. America doesn't have sovereignty. Israel is totally in control of us.
And of course, we all know that Israel is the boss. Israel controls our country. Now you know it for a fact.
But the issue with conspiracy...
Well, I mean, that's not really the case though, right? Because if Trump is doing... If Trump is fucking sucking Israel off more than Biden, that means that that's not necessarily like the overall case here, and you're just you're coping hard as fuck. But Trump is like a big asshole for like authoritarian white people like Netanyahu and Putin. So
is that it is hyper-deterministic. There's a shadowy cabal in the highest echelons of society, and that cabal has most of the power. And that claim leaves precious little room for other explanations for reality, little ability for us to discuss political events as they appear to us. If things are not as they seem, why talk about the way things seem? If President Trump would be shot and killed if he broke with Israel, why talk about the politics of his vice president? There's an unresolved tension here between Nick's desire to engage in conspiracy and his desire to engage with political reality. And I think that may have been at the back of Nick's mind.
Damn, Alex Jones looks like fucking shit. What the fuck?
As he sat down the next day for a lengthy conversation with Alex Jones.
So, Nick, you told us what was coming 2 years ago. You've been proven right. You know, you're like the new Alex Jones being right on things.
Right at the beginning.
That's crazy because This guy like loses his entire life because he was like relentlessly directing his audience to stalk and harass the fucking parents of the victims of Sandy Hook. Wow. Always right on things. They do be making the frogs gay, I guess.
Beginning of that interview, Fuentes says this.
As you know, in 2024, I said that Trump is the Iran war candidate. It was inevitable that Trump would take us to war. And as a matter of fact, I think that's a large reason why he got elected in the first place. I think that if you look at the election in 2020, it was obviously stolen and rigged. And so you
no, it wasn't.
Say, well, how did he then come back and win in 2024?
Because it wasn't stolen and rigged. But it got too big to rig.
Well, clearly the riggers had to stand down.
Whoa, that's a big old word, or maybe it's not true. And Trump is able to beat two women, but can't beat a fucking senile old man, which is the case.
And let him take office. They let him win, and I think they let him win because they knew that unlike Joe Biden and unlike the Democrats, he was going to have no hesitation, no reluctance whatsoever to engage Iran and its proxies.
Yeah, we have a new theory, and a baffling one. The power...
What's the new theory? That Israel let him win because they knew he would be on their side? Is that the argument? What the fuck?
Powers that be, the ones who stole the election from Trump in 2020, were told to let him become president in 2024 because the Jewish cabal thought he would happily go to war with Iran. So Nick's case here just doesn't really follow from the other things he said. The day before, he claims that the Jewish cabal kills any president who deigns to go against them.
A U.S. president can't say no to Israel because they control our system and they have penetrated our country so thoroughly they will literally kill you.
And if that's...
I don't think that's true. I think, again, that Israel has... a pretty advantageous foothold in the Middle East, and so we will concede to them on many things to maintain that. And also, like, the American sentiment around non-white people is, hey, we don't care if they live or die. So we haven't historically really cared too much about brown people in the Middle East, but there's white people there. Those are cool, and so people haven't cared, and now things are starting to change. But as we hopefully create more alliances in the Middle East, that's going to reduce Israel's ability to be like, hey, hey, you need us. It's like, well, maybe we won't need you as much anymore. If we can make other Middle Eastern allies, we can reduce that dependency.
It's true, and if that's an effective method for controlling U.S. policy on Israel, why do they need to steal the elections? The whole theory just feels like weird overkill to me, and that's especially striking because it is just totally unmoored from reality. Has Israel threatened to murder every American president? No, of course not, but at least you can imagine such a thing. You can conjure an image of the Illuminati visiting upon Trump and telling him the deep state's master plans. But now, what's even going on? Israel is able to coordinate every American election. They're in command of the election fraud apparatus? Literally how? What do they do exactly? But even though Nick's claim here is...
Wouldn't they want Trump to come in then? The first, and not lose to Biden? I feel like Trump would have been so much more pro-Israel. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Over the top, and even though it seems to depart from his prior claim, I think it's a really effective line because it resolves the tension I was just talking about between conspiracy and reality. Suddenly, Nick has a theory that allows him to express all the beliefs he wants to express. It makes sense that he's worried about Jews, a group of people who run society, and it also, crucially, makes sense to worry about Trump specifically, about his staff and his choices, about the things he does that other presidents probably wouldn't have done. If Israel just shoots every president who steps out of line, we don't really have much to talk about. But if they like Trump, if they chose him, then we can engage once again in the world of actual politics. So I think this sequence of events really speaks to how fundamentally pragmatic Nick Fuentes is, how even his most outlandish claims are ultimately rooted in...
I wonder if he actually believes what he's saying when he continuously says all this shit. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Maybe he just really hates Jewish people for some reason. I don't really get it, though.
In his very particular...
I think maybe it just feels good to say shit like this. Like just wild, asinine, ridiculous shit. It must just feel like really good to say it. It feels good to be angry at somebody. It doesn't feel good to regulate your anger. But it does feel good to be angry, right? And I think maybe that's part of it. It's just like, it feels good to be angry at somebody. Like, I'm angry at Jewish people like that. That's probably what it is more than anything else. I really wouldn't doubt that. The fuck?
Rhetorical needs. Conspiracy theorists are often understood as basically weird people. The phrase evokes the idea of some sad QAnon
yeah, pretty much.
Grandpa who is so unwilling to deal with a chaotic and arbitrary world that he turns his mind over to hallucinations and grand plots. But that's not what's going on here, right? Rather, conspiracies to Nick Fuentes are basically just flourish, a way for new knowledge to be codified, made to feel big and important. And because of that, the theory can be revised and contradicted on a dime. At first, it made sense to say that Israel controls controls America by shooting at its presidents. But then that theory became limiting and unhelpful, and so it was replaced, perhaps intentionally, perhaps without any thought at all, with this new idea, the Israeli election fraud hypothesis. The plot here is an incidental feature of the information being communicated. It is a pure reflection of Nick's ego. And really, is that such a surprise? Is it so strange that someone like Nick Fuentes exists and is successful and seems so agnostic to reality? I mean, maybe it's kind of cheesy to say, but just look at Trump. He's basically a bigger, more important Nick Fuentes. Yes, the two men don't share the same politics exactly. Yes, Nick dislikes Trump these days, but they have both embraced grandiose madness as a political tool.
Yeah, I mean that is true.
We could talk about a million.
I wonder if you get to a point where like you believe some of the conspiracies, and then after you open that door, you're just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll support other ones just so people will believe me, or I'll weaponize them. So maybe Nick really does believe that Israel has a lot of control over the United States, and then he just allows himself to just continuously, I guess extrapolate on that, or continue to build up on that and be like, yeah, sure, like I believe 30% of what I'm actually saying, but sure, that could be a thing. It doesn't interrupt my believing in the flat earth or something, I don't know. Doesn't interrupt what I have to say, so sure, I can support that or something. I'm not necessarily saying he believes in that, but just like that fundamental of like, yeah, sure, that could be real, who cares?
Million things here, from the election of 2020 to the birther movement, but let's stay on topic and talk about Iran. Trump has given no coherent explanation for why America is fighting this war, and much like Fuentes, Trump's theory of the case seems to be in a constant state of flux. He says we're fighting to get rid of non-existent nuclear weapons, but then consistently reframes the war as one of annihilation. Iran had plans of taking over the entire Middle East and completely obliterating Israel. Just like Iran itself, those plans are now dead. If they block the Strait of Hormuz, the US will, quote, make it virtually impossible for Iran to ever be built back as a nation again. Trump has said a few times that he would only accept...
I mean, the problem is that he said such inflammatory shit like this before, and he always falls short of his threat, so it doesn't really matter. I think it goes away. I think it goes away once you continuously, like, you have this pattern of, like, saying inflammatory shit, and then, I don't really fall through on it, so it doesn't really matter. People don't respect me anymore. Because he always does this shit. He's always like so fucking hyperbolic, and people are just like burnt out on it. They're like, okay, we don't really believe your threat anymore.
Unconditional surrender from Iran, but his press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, clarified that unconditional surrender will be attained when Trump, quote, determines that Iran no longer poses a threat to the United States of America and the mission's goals have been fully realized. It's a kind of recursive nightmare statement, and it makes clear that the purpose of this war only really exists in Trump's mind, that words like surrender and victory are essentially meaningless concepts, totally unmoored from any objective outcome.
Yeah, and then he could just say they surrendered and people will, I guess, believe him. He'll believe himself, so it won't matter to him.
Trump produced the political rot that Nick Fuentes makes use of, benefits from, and at times it seems like Nick agrees with that. In the stream he did after talking to Piers Morgan, when he discussed how he had to be a contemptuous liar, he directly compared himself to Trump.
And people say Trump is a bullshitter and Trump is a sociopath or whatever. It's like, but Trump is what we get when the media does nothing but lie. When the media acts in bad faith, and they're merciless and they just try to cut you no matter what, you get somebody that is irrationally self-confident. You get somebody that almost is contemptuously dishonest.
This is how Trump won, after all, by being more horrible and disingenuous than the supposedly evil journalists who deign to ask him questions. This is the main lesson to take.
Yeah, well, I think that there are some people that were worn down by like mainstream media being dishonest in their representation of things, but like obviously Trump takes that and like tenfolds it, so.
From his presidency. I touched on this earlier in the video, but a large part of Nick Fuentes' fame comes down to his dissidence and rebelliousness. Bradley Martin and Jack Neal gave their Nick Fuentes episodes nearly identical titles, The Most Cancelled Man in America or On the Internet. Glenn Greenwald waxes philosophical about how Nick is often taken out of context. Even Coleman Hughes begins his podcast with a lengthy explanation about how the attempt to suppress Nick has contributed to his celebrity.
It seems to me that the ham-fisted attempt to erase him from public life only drew more attention to his ideas in the long run.
And look, there is a there. Nick Fuentes is dissident. He is an extremist. He is a bigot. That's most of why he was canceled. That's what these interviewers are salivating over.
Giving people a very easy way to demonize and attack you by taking these quotes that can sound not just very racist, but very almost like Nazi-like.
I don't want to play down who Nick Fuentes is or what he represents. But at some point, you're watching Nick Fuentes and you've seen him for hours and hours, way more than the 50 you said you watched when you started writing this video, and the shock value wears away and you're left thinking, we've seen this before. This person isn't unique. When I look at him now, all I can see is this self-aware, nihilistic, grandiose embodiment of Trump-era propaganda. In Nick's interview with Tucker Carlson, Tucker speaks with shock and awe at the fact that Nick was placed on a no-fly list.
By no-fly list, you mean not extra scrutiny, but like not allowed to fly in airplanes in the United States?
Not allowed to fly, yes.
How old were you?
I was 23.
Did you have any felony convictions?
Damn, you cucked yourself at 23 with your fucking dumbass shit.
I wasn't even aware that could happen.
This event is the ultimate
Well, he was aware of that. he was obviously debriefed about Fuentes.
evidence of Nick's canceled status, our proof that society is out to get him. They don't talk about how Nick got on that list. Perhaps that would take away some of the romance of the story. But the truth, as Nick tells it, is that he was placed on that list because he went to the January 6th insurrection and egged on the rioters. Trump put him up to it.
74 million Americans voted for Donald Trump on November 3rd. 85% of Republicans believe that this election was stolen. And every single conservative in this country knows that the legitimacy of this democratic system is over. It means nothing anymore.
Damn, you think that they would have removed them from the no-fly list then after Trump did absolutely rile these people up?
Anyway, yeah, it's time for the Nick Fuentes beatdown.
All right. I'm actually surprised they kept him on the no-fly list since it was from January 6th. I mean, obviously Trump wanted that to happen, but, you know, and it was bad. Well, Trump wanted it to happen, and it was bad. But you thought that Trump would have, like, overturned that in some capacity.
Shadow!
It's very strange.
The Hedgehog, I need your help. Looks like we have a bigot who needs taking care of.
Bro, what the fuck is this?
I have to admit, this bigot is pretty fast. I think I might need a little more help on my side. Goku, come in. Hey, Shadow. Hey, Big Joel. So there's a bigot that needs taking care of, huh? That's right, Goku. We need your help.
I don't think I can watch this.
I have to admit, this guy is pretty strong. Well, with dirt
Shrek comes into play at some point, too.
bags like this, there's only one thing.
All right, listen, I would finish this, but I gotta go drop my car off. It's a good video, though.